to start this evening's meeting. First, motion to open.
I make a motion to open the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for May 28, 2014.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to the May 28, 2014 meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation. My name is Curtis Highsmith, and I am your chair. I'd like to introduce our panel. We have Christina Redding, Esther Pastor, Ham Hogue. Unfortunately, Brian Brady will not be here this evening, but we'd like to welcome our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth, our legal counsel, Bo Robinson, and Antoinette, as always, we welcome you as well. We're going to start this evening's meeting with signs, and first application, please.
Chairman, Taconic Builders for a job sign.
Is the applicant present? We sent the letter out, did we not?
I have to look back.
Okay.
In a minute. I'll take a look.
The application, I don't think is complete.
Well, I mean, it's not visual, it's...
I can't read it.
I'd be fine with it if I could
Read
see
it.
what it says.
No letter, just that it was adjourned.
Okay, can we get a letter out to the applicant for further development? Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn the application for Taconic Builders and Contractors sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
AJ Hampton Services, we have the same issue with this guy, too.
Is the applicant present? JJ Hamptons. Did we send a letter out?
I'm pulling it up right now, sorry. Yes, a letter of inquiry will be sent. If no response is given, it will be removed from the agenda without prejudice at the next meeting.
Motion to remove application from the agenda without prejudice.
I make
I'm
a
sorry?
motion to remove the application for J&J Hampton Services without prejudice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
On the agenda, we have a Barber Lounge 36. We do not have the file for it.
But I had that it was approved last time.
Okay.
That would be the reason why it's not in.
The next application is the Global Group.
Aye.
Joseph D. Christopher.
Okay, this is going to be on the building permit, correct?
Yes,
Is this the correct rendition,
yes,
correct font,
yes,
and color?
yes. The dark blue and white.
Ham, any questions?
No, I don't have any issues with it. It's appropriate.
I
Yes.
think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
No, I think it's great.
Any public comment on the application? Good luck.
Okay.
Motion
Thanks,
to
sir.
approve.
I make a motion to approve the sign for the Global Group, 87 Jobs Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Erica's Place, 67A Jobs Lane, storefront.
Your name for the record, please.
I'm Joanna Mincarelli.
Is this the correct sample of your
That's it.
same color?
It's
Font?
white, gold, that's it. It's in the car if you want it.
Very nice. I'm sorry?
It's in the car if you want me
Okay,
to bring
that's
it in.
okay.
I think it's lovely.
Ham?
Very appropriate. Nice.
Steve?
Appropriate.
Any public comment on the application? Very nice.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the sign for Erica's Place, 67A Jobs Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application is Dash 62 Jobs Lane.
Is the applicant present?
Stacy Menzer, Hampton Signs.
Just a decal on the windows?
Yes,
No awning, no sign, no...
not at the moment.
I don't have any issues.
I'm fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the sign for Dash at 62 Jobs Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
27 Hampton Salon.
Hello, my name is Bianca Lefferts.
Very nice. What's your sign?
It is.
You have correct font?
Yep.
As well as color.
Yep.
Any public comment on the application? Anything further from the board?
Fine with
No, I think it's lovely.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the sign for 27 Hampton Salon, 27 Hampton Road.
it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Northeast Equity.
Is the applicant present? You had to think about it?
I did, thank you.
No problem. Contractor sign?
Yes,
Or
no,
lawn sign?
lawn sign.
Address, Meeting House Lane, Medical Suites, telephone number, and the name of the corporation. Is there any lanterns, any light being proposed? Is this the correct font?
It
As well
is.
the color?
It is,
White background?
yes.
Pam, any comments?
No.
Esther?
Appropriate.
Clean and simple.
Christine? Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the sign for Northeast Equity, 325 Meeting House Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Concludes our signs for this evening. First application, historic.
436 Gin Lane, LLC, for demolition of existing dwelling.
For the applicant, John Bennett, and Stephen Lemansky is with me as well. I have what I'm handing out. What's the best way to do this? Just
That's fine. Perfect.
Oh,
Is one for Zach, John?
yes. The last time we were here, we said that we would provide you with additional engineering comment, and indeed we have had, fortunately it was a short time window, but we have had a forensic engineer's report prepared by Edward Gillespie. But before I get to that, I want to bring to your attention that one of the things that I have in the, it's in my cover letter, is also a supplemental report prepared by Stephen Bedford, who's the architectural historian. And I'll leave that to you for your review. I'm not going to read it into the record. But what he does do is he responds to the email from Carol Zaleski that Zach read into the record of the last meeting, and also has additional comments about the lack of importance of this easterly addition to Johnson's oeuvre. One of the things that I think you'll find interesting that Steve has prepared and offers for you is these color photographs at the back of his report. You'll see the significant changes, alterations, additions that have happened to the house since 1938. So they're very, very easy on the eyes, very user-friendly to see these significant additions. The western, totally nondescript box-like addition, as well as the porch addition that wraps around the front side of the property. This totally incongruous and unimportant addition to the east, Philip Johnson, though it may be, it has to be you have to make a determination based not upon this sort of star worshipping that goes on, but whether the actual worthiness of this for preservation. And then again, another shot of this westerly addition as well as the front addition. So all four sides of this property have been changed, which again is one of the criterion that you look at. Just highlighting some of this forensic engineer's report. Probably the best thing to do is read you the conclusion. The structural condition of the main house is poor and deteriorating at a rapid rate. Excessive settlement has occurred and is likely to continue due to soil conditions, rot, and poor maintenance. The structure needs extensive work, and rebuilding is not an option. The existing structure cannot be maintained while trying to perform the work to rebuild. The house is built directly on ground level and thereby limits access to the structural components that require replacement. To reach the main house supports that have caused the settlement and structural issues addressed in this report, the main structure must be taken down. Simply put, the house must be taken apart and removed to access the interior sleepers and supports that have rotted out and caused the settlement that threatens to collapse the house. The glass addition is so severely deteriorated and damaged that it must be taken down to avoid a catastrophic failure. For these reasons, our evaluation concludes that the only viable option is to take the house down rather than attempt to repair or replace it piece by piece. I'd like these entered into the record. This is on this Johnson edition, which is, I think, most people would consider is ugly and totally contrary to the existing architecture of the house. This is a piece of the I-beam that's holding it up. That's what's left of the steel. This is a piece of the rim joist that wraps around the Johnston addition. And these are not cherry picking. This is what the wood is like. So I'd like that in the record. Feel them, touch them. It's really very, very, very probative of the condition of this house.
John, do you have any identification on your?
There are two. They're referenced in the report.
Well, you need to put them in there,
In where?
in the bag.
Where? In the bag.
How would anybody know what they are?
Sure. Well, I'm identifying them on the
Well,
record. But I'll put
they're
it-
just going to
sure.
go in the file, and nobody's going to know
Okay,
which is
sure.
which or whatever
Well, I
else.
identify them on the record. Steve, would you put in here, this is a piece of the steel I-beam, and the other one is a piece of the rim joist?
Okay, well, as he's toe tagging that, what else do you have?
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
So it all leads to the conclusion, as was pretty obvious I think, from Steve's report, which was unfairly criticized but accurate, that any attempt to rebuild this house results in, and I'll let Steve talk about what that would require, results in a total rebuilding of this house, which then you don't have anything other than a replica. The only evidence in the record as to cost is Krupinski's very detailed estimate, which talks about the difference between a rebuild and just tearing it down and building a house anew is a $7 million difference. And I've looked at all these the tapes from the various hearings, and a lot of people are poo-pooing the cost. Even one of them said, it's only $4 or $5 million to renovate this house. $4 or $5 million to renovate this house. That's all conjecture. All of this is everything that we put in the record is forensic. It's real. It's actual costs. And when somebody stands up and says, it's just a question of money to rebuild this, even though the numbers are significant, I can't help but thinking about Margaret Thatcher's comment about socialism, which is it's great until you run out of somebody else's money. And that's what we're talking about here. It's very simple for someone to talk about the money that's required to take this thing down and rebuild it and eventually end up with a replica, but it's not money coming out of their pocket. And the true stakeholder of this property is the owner, and the owner shouldn't be put to this sort of expense for an attempt to recreate a emotional thought about a past that never was. And that's oftentimes what a lot of this is all about. Steve, I thought you might have some comments about the condition of the property and what it would entail to actually safely replicate this property.
For the record, Stephen Lemansky, Southampton Engineering. I know you've looked through the report, and there's another report, and there's another report actually in the works. And I was there again today and really walked through the house, and I can tell you the roof has to be replaced in its entirety. The exterior trim has to be replaced in its entirety. The shingles have to be replaced in their entirety. And you go inside the house, the structure is not in good shape. The floors are rolling all over. I mean, there's a room up on the second floor where there's two doors, there's a belly in the floor, and the top casing of the doors are kicked down like this. You literally, the windows, as we said before. So you're really changing every single piece of this house. And you'll get report after report after report. I would invite the board members to come down there. If you guys want to come down, I'll walk you through this house. you know what you're looking at, Hammond, and you guys have been around the block. Brian Brady knows what he's looking at. I wouldn't hesitate to bring you there and say, look at this. Come into the basement, see the rotted piles. See on the Johnson addition, the steel beams are falling apart. They're not even attached to the piles. It's kind of a cantilevered construction because you've got piles with 2 steel beams and the joists that extend out over those beams become the bearing end of the second floor walls and the second floor and the roof. Totally deteriorating. I mean, I think you in particular, who have been in the business a long time and know what you're looking at, would walk through this house and say,
I've already made my decision on this. I don't know why the applicant isn't polling the board, frankly. But
why don't we poll the board?
The only thing I asked for last time was to show a cost in comparison to the 50%. Do you have that tonight?
No, because
I'm sorry.
Chairman, point of order. I don't think we're up to that.
I didn't think so either, but continue on.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the reports, I think that'll help you understand the condition of this house. And I think if any of you would like to come, just contact me, and I'll take you down there myself, and I will show you what the condition is.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thanks.
And again, on the 50%, I'm replacing essentially everything, I think it's.
So you're standing by your estimate
of Kropinski.
How much was that again?
Kropinski said to rebuild the same square footage in a manner that's, an estate area. Southampton Manor was about $7 million. To take it apart piece by piece, try to replace things, replica is around 15.
Thank you.
Zach?
Not meaning to be belligerent, but I just wanted to remind the board, you're well aware of how the code is written. Certainly the applicant is, perhaps the public attending this evening is not. But to assert a hardship criterion, or criteria, one must first be denied. So the cost of replacement, the 50%, all of these discussions follow.
No, they're not.
That's if we were to
follow upon, according to the code, and there may well be ample time to bring this up, but the hardship criteria are only a cause for discussion if the essential and original application has been denied per Village Code 65-7. So I would suggest that the intimation that there are costs associated and all the rest of it with your pure and considerate discussion of the architectural criteria is irrelevant. What is before the board now is a discussion of what is to be lost or gained with the approval or denial of the certificate of appropriateness for demolition. Once that has been denied, that would open the door for an application for hardship. Prior to that, there is no application. There is no provision in the code for simultaneous discussions. So I think to simplify this discussion, it would be helpful to adhere to the code and discuss the merits, pro and con for demolition or not, and then if there is a finding that there is a denial of the appropriateness, it is at that point that a submittal, and there is a 60-day, there's a whole procedure for this. It's all in the code. Everyone's aware of this. And I think that's the appropriate point. Otherwise, this muddles this discussion.
But it seems that the applicant is putting the argument not just as a financial hardship, but that the amount of deterioration to the property is so overwhelming that it cannot be.
That has yet to be corroborated.
Okay, so, well, I mean, we're separating the two entities, the hardship case and the condition of the structure itself.
Right, right.
It can be the same argument for both scenarios.
Not a claim for hardship.
Well, it can be if you're saying that if the argument is not proven that.
Not a claim for hardship. That's in the code. And that follows a discussion and a finding of a denial of the certificate of appropriateness.
Well, if this engineer's report doesn't validate or doesn't become a convincing validation of the amount of deterioration, then it becomes a hardship on the financial end.
Can I respond to this, please, if I may?
I'm
Please.
only reading the code.
I don't, you know what, Zach, you're really great, but, last week you said you weren't an engineer, but you criticized the engineer. I suppose you don't have a law degree,
I take exception to
okay?
that, Mr. Bennett.
Okay.
I did not criticize
Well, let me
the engineer.
respond. Yes, you
What
did.
I said was that given the limitations of my profession, which adheres to the forensic examination of historic structures, what I can do is I can read engineers' reports and I can discern where they vary from an appropriate conclusion based upon their observation. That's what I said, so you can listen to that recording
Well,
again.
as far as I'm
I did
concerned, that's
not
no different than
assert
saying
that
you're an
I was
engineer.
a professional engineer, and that is why I said that.
Okay.
I feel that this board, on occasion, and this may well rise to that occasion, would be well served by bringing in their own engineer to examine a structure for which there is some question as to its structural integrity, because that is not my profession. But I can certainly read engineers' reports and discern where someone asserts that something is not structurally viable because of X, Y, and Z, and I can say, well, actually, I've been investigating structures for 40 years, and in my observation, that is not a valid conclusion. That I can come to, and that is what I said.
No,
So correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're essentially saying that you have the qualifications of an engineer.
I did not say that,
But let me
and I'm
respond.
not saying that now.
Let me respond. First of all, as it relates to the condition of the premises, number one, the 40 Meadow Lane case, you specifically took into account the condition of the
That
premises.
is a different project.
Well, can I finish?
That's irrelevant
Can I finish?
to this
No, it's not irrelevant because you made,
This board does not set precedent by granting demolition permits for other properties.
No, it does-
Each property
yes,
is taken under its own merits.
It certainly does. If you look at the case law, when you take into account certain criteria in making your determination, that becomes
This is not a court
determinant-
of law, Mr. Bennett.
No, it's
We
I'm not.
take every
Can I
application
finish,
for its own
please?
merits.
Guys, seriously.
No, the case that I'm talking about, the Knight versus Amelkin case, talks about administrative procedure. So in the past, and I demonstrated this in my prior submissions, if you've taken into account for the worthiness of preservation, the condition of the premises, that is something that not only did you do it intelligently, but that's something that you're stuck with. I think you've done it wisely, but you can't now turn a blind eye to the condition of the premises as it relates to the worthiness of preservation because you've done it in the past, number one. Number two, there's nothing in the code that says that you can't view these applications at the same time. Absolutely not. There's absolutely nothing in the code. You have the pure ability to make that determination. You could, in the same determination,
I hear you.
say
Understood.
that we don't allow a certificate of appropriateness, which I think you would be in error in this case to do, but nevertheless, hypothetically, we don't allow a certificate of appropriateness, but we do grant it based upon the evidence before us in the hardship. There's absolutely no reason, given the length of these proceedings.
Understood. But
Bifurcate
we
the
have legal
provisions.
counsel and Zach, Bo, at this
I've been
time.
asked not to say anything.
No, you haven't.
This is the
There has been a question of procedure for
Print out of the
clarification from counsel.
There's no
Please.
clarification that council has to offer you. Your board is, there is a procedure. Zach has read you the law. There's no reason why the law can't be followed. If your board members are going to announce that they've already made up their determination or something like that, there's no procedure that I can give you to deal with this.
Sorry?
One of your board members has announced he's already made his decision. There's no procedure for that.
Okay, but that wasn't a quorum, though. That
I
was
didn't say it was. I said one of your board
informal.
members has already announced he's made a decision. So whatever you people want to do, there is the law. I don't know why it's not being followed. And I don't know why there is this business going on with everybody.
Okay, I'm trying to get clarification. We have.
Well, there's what
Well,
clarification can one give?
there is historic consultant making a comment about
Exactly.
procedure.
So listen to him.
Okay,
He just read you the law.
all right.
I'm saying that there's nothing.
Understood. We heard counsel and we've heard consultant. Is there any public comment on the application?
Good evening, board members. Sally Spanberg, village resident. As promised at the last hearing, I'm following up with a letter from Jeffrey Collet that speaks about a cost for renovation, restoration of the project. And I just had a couple of comments. Before, John Bennett said that Davis Movers said that the house could be lifted, and that seems to contradict the new engineering report, which is curious. Also, Kropensky's numbers are curious because, and I'm not sure this is applicable right now, I'm not sure what the procedure will be, but in any case, Kropensky's numbers are curious because of the square footages he uses, which include the entire ground floor, which is mostly non-habitable. I'm told there's just a maid's room and an entry foyer, as well as the pool and the garage, which is not being demolished. And then I have a question I don't expect an answer to, but I can't help but ask it. What about the fact that it appears that the condition is due to neglect by the owner? Does that come into consideration? Thank you.
I have one question,
respond to
Sally.
that.
One
This
sec-
has been the
excuse me,
current owner of
excuse me.
the- oh,
I
the-
have one question. Was Jeffrey Collet at the property?
No, he was not.
Thank you.
So he gave a letter that said that he's been involved in other
But he was not at this particular
historic
property.
restorations, right? And based on his experience, he would
Thank you,
give that
Sally.
estimate per square foot.
Yeah, thank you. John, sorry to,
Yeah, no, I apologize. First of all, Jeffrey Collet is not a contractor.
just asked the
He's a
question.
contractor. He's not an engineer. He's not an architect.
he wasn't at the site. Please continue.
The 20 is a general contractor.
It's immaterial.
Excuse me? Thank you.
Not material.
First of all, in terms of neglect, the current owner has owned this property for 4 or 5 years. The real neglect to this property happened when the Riley and Nelson family owned it. When I say neglect, they, maybe they didn't have the means, to maintain it in the appropriate fashion. But I've known this property since I worked on my father's crew, starting at the age of 16, and nothing was ever done to this property other than patch it up as best as you can. So to try to suggest that the current owner has neglected the property shows, again, a total lack of knowledge of the operative facts. The Riley family bought this from Charlotte Ford in the mid to late 50s and did very, very little to it until the Riley/Nelson family sold it to Scott Bomber 4 or 5 years ago. So that's simply, again, not fair to impugn the bona fides or the motives of the current owner.
Thank you, John.
Sally?
I just want to remind you that you have information in the file that says from the previous owners that they sold it for the full asking price, which they could not have done if it had been in any deteriorated condition, and comments about the condition at this time of sale. No bending in the floors, etc. So that's all in your file.
Any more public comment?
Thank you.
Public comment. I know you're Bippy.
John, it's settled.
Thoughts are being bent. This is disgusting.
Any more public comment? Okay, just to let you know procedurally, we've received advice both from our consultant. It's been supported by our counsel. So in reference to the hardship case, there is a procedure that we must follow. That procedure is obviously post a denial of a certificate of appropriateness based on the merits of the architecture or the ability to or inability to rehab the property, not for financial means, but because the structure is just unable to be rehabbed in any form or fashion. That is the application that will be viewed, and that is how we're going to view the application thus far.
Right.
Hardship case will be a post-application process if you are not getting the votes.
Okay. Give me the opportunity to put a memo of law in on that, number one. Number two, you will not be doing what you have done in the past.
I don't recall any time we've taken a hardship case simultaneously.
Just gotta let me finish. No.
Okay, go ahead.
You would not be doing what you have done in the past unless you have taken into consideration the condition of the property and the likelihood that it can be rehabilitated as opposed to replicated as to whether or not to grant a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. That would be this application.
I understand.
Not the
That's
financial
all. I just
hardship.
wanted to make sure that was clear. And I
Understood.
appreciate the clarification, Chairman.
Any more public comment? Anything further from the board?
Yeah, yes. So you're going to leave your application incomplete as to the request of this board to come up with another breakdown
I'll
of,
give you 50%. If you want a 50%,
that's what we asked for
Sure.
last time, and that's why my mind is set. Unless I see that,
Okay.
I'm gonna vote against this, period. It's not a complete application.
what would you like? Because building
Exactly
inspectors
what I
disagree.
requested last time. You've certainly seen the tapes enough to
No,
understand what
Ham,
that
I don't
is.
want to have any variance on what you like. You want to
Separate out the wear and tear items such as
Right.
the roofing and siding, flashing, and items that are caused by weatherization changes
Mm-hmm.
from mechanical systems and from interior finishes. It's that simple. Cabinetry and so forth, just like we discussed last time. It's a pretty straightforward breakdown.
The breakdown is, I will give you a 50%.
Shell structures, I think we brought that up last time. The shell of the house, meaning the wear and tear on roof, the wear and tear on siding, fenestration, and so forth.
If-
What you brought in on these little bags would be on the other side. Not wear and tear, it's rot.
Yeah, please do.
You understand what I'm saying, Steve?
I do, and there's also a couple of other factors. Right now, there was like a leak in the ceiling of the second floor. They opened it up. There's another ceiling underneath that
Yep.
that has 6 or 7 coats of paint on it that I'm sure is lead-based paint.
Right, so.
There's also
break those up,
asbestos,
and then I
right,
think
there's also
they'll be more than
asbestos throughout the
satisfied.
house. So you're gonna actually have to have I'm not even sure, I have to check on how they'd have to do it. I don't know if the lead abatement people would have to be the people to do the first level of demolition and then go into the lead and then go into the asbestos and then do an interior demo, so.
That's up to you guys.
Yeah.
I just want to see a completed application
Sure.
at this point.
Sure.
That's all. Very clear.
But you have to understand something. The FEMA regulations say if
I'm not talking about FEMA.
Well, what are you asking for?
You made it very straight last time that the FEMA regulations require a complete replacement of everything right down to the cabinets, I think to use your quote, right?
What is put into the 50% bucket?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all.
That's going to be a massive number. We'll get it to you.
Let's see it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board?
Nope.
Zach, anything further?
Something brief,
Okay.
if I may. I feel it's premature to be discussing FEMA because that implies the costs of salvage, and we get into an area of what might be construed as being unreasonable, part of what would be imposed upon the present owner in terms of salvaging or preserving the structure. If one refers to Unit 8 of the discussion of the FEMA and the way it is applied, over and beyond the 50% bucket, to use Ham's expression, what are the special situations? There are special situations. The substantial improvement and substantial damage requirements affect all buildings regardless of the reason for the improvement or the cause of damage. There are 3 special situations you should be aware of: exempt costs, historic buildings, and corrections of code violations. Where it comes to historic structures, this is addressing the issue of whether the costs of salvage and restoration, whatever, vis-a-vis the adherence to FEMA requirements apply. Historic structures are exempted. I'm reading from what's been printed off the FEMA internet. So
Look at the village code now.
No, no,
You're a lawyer
I
again.
would
The
assert
village
that
code
federal
states.
law- federal
No,
law
it doesn't.
preempts.
Look at the village code. The village code says is
Can
a
our
variance is necessary.
Finish, please.
Thank you.
I'm only
Please,
reading
Zach.
federal law.
I don't care,
Can-
John,
can-
locally.
John.
Let him finish.
Does anybody have the village code? I'll go.
John, let the man finish. If not, I'm going to recommend that the application be adjourned for all purposes.
I'm only reading the interpretation of federal law as placed on the website of FEMA, which is so that regular guys like me who don't speak FEMA code and regulations can kind of understand where all these things apply or don't. And most of it applies to people who are trying to repair damage in recent storms, et cetera. So it takes a long time to get through to the projects which are not of necessity being prompted by damage wrought by storms, but are rather optional because we live on the ocean, and therefore, we would like to enhance our property values. It's hard to get to that part of the federal law. Historic structures are exempted from the substantial improvement requirements subject to the criteria listed below. The exemption can be granted administratively if the current definitions of substantial improvement and historic structure are included in your ordinance. We got the ordinance, we talk about historic structures. Okay, and these are the stipulations, the criteria. Number one, the building must be bona fide as a historic structure, according to whatever the local definition is. In our village, that would be considered a contributing structure on the National Register. Okay. Number two, the project must maintain the historic status of the structure. In other words, the federal government doesn't want you claiming an exemption from adherence to FEMA if you're going to take that historic structure, which is a lovely old home, and make it into something else for profit, such as commercial, etc., which is certainly not being proposed
And number
here.
three?
So, federal law is saying that they recognize the preservation of historic structures, but not in the context of some radical transformation of a building into some other purpose. So those are bona fide reasons, and that is not really what we're talking about this evening, but that was brought up, the FEMA law was brought up in the discussion. So I'm simply anticipating this focus on what the adherence to the compliance with FEMA is going to mean is a total red herring, because this as a bona fide contributing structure, and therefore it is individually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's not just an old house in the village of Southampton. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and as such, it is exempt from these FEMA regulations.
The FEMA demands, you mean?
Demands, if you will, pure and simple. So any future discussion about what the costs are associated with compliance with FEMA are simply untrue. Okay. According to FEMA. Read the regulations. And that was my only comment, because I think this has been intimated, and I think we need to be clear that this, in terms of projected costs and what it's going to mean, and 50%, none of the above.
Got it.
It's an administrative decision locally.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay. My response is that is demonstrably and legally absolutely incorrect. The village code is what governs. The FEMA regulations are in the village code. You look at the village code, flood damage prevention sections. It's the model code that the federal government said, if you want to have this community have a flood insurance rating, you have to adopt the model code. It is not the federal regulations which control. It is the model code that has been promulgated in the village code. Does anyone have a village code? This is an ARB meeting. I'll try to give you it as much from memory as I can. But the village code does not say that the FEMA regulations do not apply to a historic structure. It unequivocally does not. I'll give the chapter and verse to Mr. Robinson tomorrow. What it says is, and there's a significant difference between saying something doesn't apply and what the village code said, which is it says you can apply for a variance from the FEMA regulations, and amongst the things that you have to show, okay, are that the variance will not have an effect on floods damage prevention concerns, which with the bulk of this house underneath the FEMA regulation required base floodplain elevation would be extremely difficult to show. It has 10 to 11 criteria which you have to obtain a variance for. What those federal regulations say are irrelevant given the fact that you have your own flood damage prevention sections. There is absolutely no safe harbor. There is no exemption for historic structures. it lists variance criteria for historic structures, which you have to demonstrate in an application before the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I'll give that to your council tomorrow.
Okay. Since again, we were very clear as to the direction of this particular application now, and that the hardship case is not something that's under consideration now at this time, because again, as part of procedure, that is something that posts any the original application, and then if there is a denial or refusal of the initial application, then it goes into a hardship case. Your request,
Not
Ham,
talking about it as it relates to hardship.
your request for the financial breakdown, therefore, doesn't become relevant.
That's not true.
Doesn't become relevant in this application if the hardship is going to be the parameters by which you're making your governing decision.
I think, however, having not necessarily the hardship, but having a delineation between service items and replacement items is something that would clarify my decision on both applications, or on both views, if you will.
Okay.
Okay?
So that we're clear, though.
Absolutely. Clear last meeting, clear 5 meetings ago.
Very good.
Just want to see the documents, that's all.
To approach your discussion about independent study of an engineer from a third party, which we've done in the past, but there's always a question as to how procedurally we would invoke that type of process. Who pays for it? How does it get initiated? That's something I would ask that you address a little bit further, so that if it becomes a case where we're not swayed by the engineer's report, which was given to us today. We haven't had the opportunity to dissect and look through. Maybe at our next meeting, if that's an opportunity for us to address even further, you can address that with the board and give us some type of direction.
I'm only suggesting it's not a common occurrence, but there are certain applications in which the very structural condition and integrity of the building becomes a major talking point. And I feel that this board is not well served, well or otherwise, by an applicant who is presenting one view. I think it's a more balanced view if you have a third party evaluate the structural integrity of a building.
Okay.
And I don't feel that we certainly have an engineer's report here, but in my estimation, it doesn't prove the case.
The one that we just submitted this evening?
We haven't had the opportunity to review.
Well, I just thought you made a conclusion about a report that we just submitted.
I believe I was very specific in saying that we received it this evening. We haven't had the opportunity to review it. However, I'm looking down the road, if any of the information within that is something that we feel is not acceptable, or we need further development on the true nature of the structure, what our options are in getting a third-party review.
You'll have a third engineer's report from Louis Berger at the next meeting.
I understand that, but
okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. You'll have a third from yet a third forensic report from Louis Berger, a 2,000-member international engineering firm. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think that will be yet again proof of the wholly deteriorated.
And then after that, we'll determine whether we need to move forward. Is that correct? With our own?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further from the public? Zach, anything further? Council, anything further?
Nothing.
Motion,
You requesting?
No, what I would like you to request, is that you, board members, go and visit the site and look at the condition of this property yourself, because that will be the best evidence for you to help you in your determination.
I understand that interiorly we have no jurisdiction
John, I'm very
interiorly.
familiar with the structure in all ways.
Curtis, I don't think he's saying that you don't have jurisdiction.
I'm not
I
saying,
think
I'm
he's
inviting,
asking-
yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
It's tough to
Are
get
you
a
asking for an
residential
adjournment, John, so we can move
No,
forward?
no, I'd like to hear council's comments.
He is saying that he's offering the opportunity, much like you had a case recently about this, for the board members to visit the interior to get some indication of what the exterior is in terms of condition.
And also, if, lest I forget, I do want to, I had some conversations with, his name escapes me, he's the head of the North Carolina Modernist Home Society, and at his recommendation, upon a approval for a demolition of the structure, we would, and this is not something that you can impose without the consent of the applicant, but we are proposing it now, just as was done in Sagaponack recently. Upon a permission for demolish, we would keep the structure intact. Particularly, we're focusing on the Philip Johnson aspect of it. We would keep this structure intact for 60 days, and if anyone wanted to come in and try to disassemble it and move it, as long as the appropriate indemnities and insurances were in place, we would be more than happy to do that.
So we can reach out to your office as members and see if, as a group, we can, well, I guess we would have to break that up into different sessions so that we don't have a quorum. And we'll take care of it. Thank you.
John, are you asking for an adjournment then so we can move on? Okay.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn 436 Gin Lane LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next application, Mr. Chair, is for a written decision, it's closed for a written decision for First Pasture LLC for driveway gates, but
I don't
not
have,
see
that
a-
decision is not available for number 3 or 4.
Well, there is no 3. This, well,
number
Number 3.
2.
nevertheless,
they
for
skipped over.
First Pasture,
2, 3, or 4.
Okay.
for Chester House.
Let's go on to next application, which is number 5 on our agenda.
So we are waiting for a written decision on First Pasture LLC and Chester House LLC.
Correct.
We're moving on to Raymond Volpe,
Yes.
200 First Neck Lane for construction of 2 sets of driveway gates.
Is the applicant present, please?
August Henry Muff, architect.
I saw this.
The Volpes wish to construct 2 sets of gates on their property at 200 First Neck Lane. They currently have 2 driveways on the property. One is on Pond Lane, and the other is off of First Neck Lane. I'll start with the gates on First Neck Lane, and I brought these blow-ups that I can show you. The piers that are here, the brick piers with the lanterns on top, currently exist, okay? And I'm not proposing to use those as gate posts. This particular wrought iron gate will go a few feet behind it on iron posts and be completely separate from it. This gate is proposed to be 21 feet from the edge of the road, which is greater than the code, the village code requires.
Iron?
Iron, correct.
Spacing?
6 inches on the vertical pickets.
Greater than 50% transparency, correct?
Yes, yes.
Columns?
The columns are brick and they're existing.
They're existing.
Yes.
Is
They're going to be
the-
painted the same color? There's some still remain?
They're currently white. We were going to leave them white, and the gates will be black behind them.
Okay. So you're not
And-
touching them, huh?
No.
Okay, I don't have any issues with that.
Yeah. We talked about the other.
Yes, the Pond Lane gate is, currently there are posts similar to this that are in very bad condition. One is actually leaning. And what I'm proposing to do is to rebuild these gates with new footings and construct this gate out of AZAC material, and which is not a wood product, it's a simulated
We're
wood
familiar,
product. I've
yep.
actually do have a sample with me, and I know you're probably familiar with it, but similar to this type of material. And
So the bottom half is just, it's not lattice, it's not open, it's not transparent at all, it's just,
that's correct. The bottom part is solid, and
panel.
the upper half is transparent.
Excuse me, but this, what we have over here looks different than what
It-
you're showing us.
I just realized that. I apologize.
So which one is it?
It is this one that you have in your hand.
want to see less panelization and more opening, more pickets. Me personally, I'll ask the board.
Absolutely, transparency of at least 50%, particularly on Pond Lane, which is right in the center of our
Okay,
historic
so
district.
less
I wouldn't-
panelization beneath?
Totally, no panelization.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, no.
I say less.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with whether it be 2 feet, 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But greater than 50% transparency as a whole. Looks more, that facade itself looks more closed in.
Mhm.
It gives it a stockade look, which
Okay.
we're trying to avoid within the village of Southampton. We've been pretty consistent about that.
So you're suggesting that that mid-rail could be lowered
Correct.
to a point where I have at least 50% transparency in the gate?
That would be correct. That would be something I would be in favor of. Esther?
I'd like to see more transparency as a whole.
Christine?
Certainly, that would be a step in the right direction.
And Ham said none at all. So.
Okay.
So
I'd say not
there's
at
a happy
all. I
medium.
would say I would prefer to have it fully transparent. I realize it's a service gate on a lot and so forth, but I don't know why you're not matching up the main gates with a little different style. I think wrought iron is nice. What you have proposed there is handsome. And the area of Pond Lane is very, very nice. And I think any kind of semi or solid gate is something that the board has been trying to dismiss on applications for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
So just resubmit for next month's,
Next meeting.
next meeting?
I
Okay.
think you've
I
got
do
approval on your
agree, I
first.
do agree with Ham
Well-
that that would be a wonderful solution for both gates.
I would have no problem of approving both of those fully transparent wrought iron gates this evening.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that rendering here this evening.
We don't, and I need to consult with my client as to whether or not they would
Okay.
like to proceed with that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you go speak with your client, and you're asking this board to adjourn?
Yes.
So you're able to come back next meeting with
Yes.
hopefully change plans?
That's very handsome, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion to approve applicant Raymond Vogel's request to adjourn for 200 First Neck Lane for 2 sets of driveway gates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Concludes our historic applications for this evening.
One more.
We do?
71.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Application is 71 Hill Street for change of color of trim, Southampton Inn.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Dee Dee Godhelf for 71 Hill LLC. This is a building at the intersection of First Neck Lane and Hill Street. It's currently painted Sherwood green with a stucco base. I would like to change the colors as suggested by Shannon Willey at Sea Green Design to a more contextual, historic pewter gray.
I saw those this afternoon. They look stunning. Very
Terrific
nice.
improvement.
Great improvement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Christine?
You okay?
Yes, I'm fine. Sorry.
Any public comment on the
Need a
application?
written decision on
Yes, take it easy.
this? Okay, Curtis.
Any public comment on the
It's not me.
application? Nothing's from a historic consultant? Dee Dee looks great. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
The
coming with it.
property is located in the historic district.
Yes, it
And therefore requires written decision by council. So at this time, what we will do is adjourn for written decision, and we hope, we hope that it's prepared at our next meeting.
So I can't paint the building this week with the dry because at the moment it's not
You can
looking
start with the
becoming of the
maintenance
village.
factor of that, right? It's maintenance, isn't it?
We can prep it. Okay, we'll prep it.
Prep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes our historic applications for this evening, and first application
I'm
non-historic.
going to recuse myself.
First
from this
application is LMR Associates, 89 Hampton Road, for a 2-story commercial building. Is there a reason we have this on top of the agenda?
Yeah, to get it
Not
out of the way.
last? Huh?
Yes,
Why is that?
because it's there.
What's Robert's Rules of Order require?
Excuse me?
You do old business before new business.
Okay, just curious.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, my name is Theodore Sklar. I am an attorney with the firm of Essex, Hefter, and Angel. 108 East Main Street, Riverhead, New York, and we represent the applicant, LMR Associates. I'm joined here this evening by the project architect, Michael Brown, who will also speak. I thought, based upon the meeting 2 weeks ago, that it might be helpful to this board for me to provide it with a very abridged analysis of how we got here today, and which would include a brief timeline of critical events and a review of documents which we believe are in the village file and in this board's file. What I'd like to do is, what the applicant would like to do, is write the final chapter on this application before this board. And it's not our intention in making the presentation to open old wounds or to inflict new ones. We just like to recognize what happened, and we hope to end the application before this board. So what I've done is I've gone through the files that we have, and I have several sets. Do you want to hand it to the members, or should I?
No, I can. You just, if you give me all of them, that would be great.
I have
Just to stamp
three.
those in.
Pardon?
Just to stamp those in.
Yes, okay. I have for Mr. Robinson and
Yeah, if you don't mind handing it to Zach and Tim, that would be great. Thank you.
I have some extras if you need them. I don't know how many you require.
That's fine.
That's enough? Okay. So maybe we should just go through what I'm handing up to you today as a preliminary matter.
How far back of this timeline are we going?
Well, I'm going to go pretty fast.
Okay.
It goes to 2005. I know you were there for a lot of it, so we're not going to belabor it. But I think these documents are important, and you should have them highlighted. One document is the approved site plan, approved by the chairman of the planning board on August 14, 2012, pursuant to court order directing the approval of the site plan.
What was the date of that court order?
Court order is in your packet. It's dated July 29, 2011.
Thank you.
You have a copy of the decision in the packet I handed out. And the approved site plan includes the location and type of lighting, as well as the areas to be landscaped. That is on the approved site plan. The next document is, there were some comments made at the last hearing about a landscaped architect.
Just for the record, the lighting is position of lanterns. Does it also give percentage of illumination? Is there a grid?
I'll skip to that. There was a photometric plan submitted in November 2008 by request of the planning board. That a copy of the photometric plan showing the lumens is in the packet.
And that was part of the planning board's approval?
Correct. It was part of the whole application process. Also in your packet, and also before the planning board, and some joint meetings of this board and the planning board, is a landscape plan which shows the species and the location of the plants to be put in the landscape areas that are depicted on the site plan. It was last revised August 22nd, 2006 by George C. Lynch, landscape architect. I'm informed, unfortunately, that Mr. Lynch passed away in January 2014. But this is his work. This was submitted to the planning board, and it is a matter of record. You also have, in the packet I handed out, the 3 planning board decisions on this application. Numbers 1, number 2, number 3. The first one was annulled by court order dated February 22nd, 2008, and remanded back to the planning board Planning board then continued to disapprove the site plan, and that decision was annulled by a decision dated July 29, 2011. And the final and third planning board resolution is the one that approved the site plan pursuant to the court order dated October 3, 2011. You have all three of the planning board decisions in your packet. Now, the second planning board decision is significant because, in essence, what the board did was,
meaning
the planning board did was say you can have a building, but you can't have a bank with a drive-through teller and queuing lanes. So they said, we'll approve something other than what you've applied for, and the court would have none of that. But in the second resolution, which did that, and the planning board had the landscape plan and the site plan in front of it, as well as the photometric plan. And on the last page, on page 6 of that second decision of May 4, 2009, it said, resolved that the board, meaning the planning board, approves the application for a 2-story detached building, parking, and landscaping on the site as shown on the site plan prepared by Squires Holding, last revised November 17, 2005. So they approved the landscaping, but they denied the building and said, come back and remove the queuing lanes and the ATM. And when the Supreme Court reversed that, the planning board then approved the site plan and made no comment about the landscaping.
This was all about a third teller lane as opposed to 2, is that correct?
They were in the queuing lanes, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the decision. It's
Right.
not based on landscaping, it's based on, you guys argued.
No, they approved the landscaping, you're correct.
But basically, this agreement, or this stipulation, or whatever you want to call it.
Which document are you reading?
Looking at the approval of
Yes.
the planning board for this was subject to, I'm sorry, not subject to, it was brought apart on Article 78 that you guys brought against the planning board.
Correct.
And you argued that if I'm reading this correctly, the 3 teller lanes, and you won. That you wanted 3 teller lanes, is that correct?
There were 3 queuing lanes, a
Queuing.
bypass lane and 2 queuing lanes is what they called it, right.
And you forced an Article 78, and you won the action, and the board voted yay.
Correct.
Okay. So where does it say landscaping in here?
In the conditional resolution of final approval, which is the third resolution, it doesn't make any contingencies on landscaping. It does say that the planning board must approve site lighting prior to the issuance of a building permit. But in the second decision, it had approved the landscaping plan.
What second decision?
What second decision?
All right,
I don't see it.
it's dated May 4, 2009.
It would have been easier if you just said 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's
Right.
let's start first.
It's got stamped received May 27th on it.
Did you just take my pen?
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
On
Okay,
the
so
front
this
page,
one's
it has
January 13th,
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
That put that aside.
Right, and that's the agreement, so to
That's
speak.
the agreement. We'll go to
Which one is that one? This one? If it
May
is-
27th, 2012.
Stamped, correct.
Okay,
Stamped.
so that
And on page 6,
Hold on a second.
That would be the
So this one we're
6-page,
putting to one
7-page.
side. This one we're putting,
it's number 6 on the bottom.
this one we're looking at.
We're looking at this one now. You said 6 from the bottom.
Page 6,
Page
the
6.
top says resolution, and there's a resolve clause by the board, planning board.
So you have a unanimous aye on this, Stevenson, Irving, Callahan, and Corrigan.
Yes.
But this again was brought on Article 78, correct?
It was brought on the Article 78 on the part that told us you can't have
So
a
what
bank
you're
with
saying is
queuing.
because it says that The board approves the application for two-story detached building, parking, landscaping, site as seen, site as shown on the site plan prepared by Squire Holden, but denies part of the application with the drive-up. So you're saying by referencing the approval of the landscape and site plan, which unfortunately they denied the drive-up.
You got it.
And you're saying this is, you're holding that you have an approved site plan as well as a landscape plan.
Yes.
But then you file Article 78 with regards to overturning the drive-through.
That's correct.
And
we won that.
Because they have the original approval for the site plan, which was approved by the planning board prior to, doesn't get negated when they open up an application or Article 78. It remains as an approved application. I'm sorry, approved
Correct,
plan.
but it doesn't involve this board as far as screening or any additional lighting required above and beyond what the lighting plan that was offered.
Once there's
to
a
the building.
planning board approval for site plan and as well as, which is a screen light,
Planning board approved the landscape plan that was submitted, as
Correct.
Mr. Clara said.
Yes.
I understand what's going on verbally here, but I'm not sure. Does your board have any problem with the landscape that was approved?
I'd like to review it, that's all.
That's, I think, where Mr. Sklar wants to go.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any difference whether the court ordered the planning board to do it or they did it on their own volition. They did it and approved the plan that Mr. Sklar gave you.
Okay, different board, though. Different criteria that I have to ask our historic consultant.
Of course, that's
Yeah,
not question.
Just to clarify.
But if your board has any issue with it, you can discuss it with him. If you need time, tell him.
Exactly. I'm with you, Bo.
Well, you certainly can review it. I'm not arguing
The one
with that.
question I have, Mr. Chair, is directed also at lighting. Does this lighting, when this application was put in for a bank, I assume the planning board covered the discussions of any lighting requirements that could affect the neighbors? That was my second part.
I think, Ted, the decision,
The
last
decision
resolution
said-
said subject to further review by the law.
Right. They reserved.
So
That hasn't been, okay.
that needs to be done. Those two things,
Right.
that's what we said at the first meeting as well.
It was presented to them, and they said in the third resolution, give it to us again before you get a building permit, and we fully intend to do that. And if you have any comments on what we previously submitted, we'll certainly take them under consideration.
Very good.
So, I mean, the timeline, I mean, I'll start in January 2005. That's when the applicant started in earnest to try to get a site plan approval for Lot 4, which is on the corner of Elm. And, a formal application for site plan review was submitted together with an earlier version of the George Lynch landscape plan, and there were many versions of George Lynch's landscape plans, culminating in the one I've pulled out of the file and given to you. That was in August of 2005. And there was that application was for a 6,300 square foot office building without a bank, without queuing lanes, without an ATM. So what happened while that application was pending, on January 26, 2006, the village trustees rezoned the property. They took it out of the office business district classification and put it in the newly created Hampton Road Office District. What that meant was that the gross square foot floor area was reduced from the maximum of 6,300 to 4,000 square feet gross floor area. In addition, the setbacks were increased and the parking, on-site parking restrictions were imposed. So what the applicant did...
By recommendation of the Planning Commission, I believe. Go ahead.
No, please, I defer to you, Mr. Hogan.
I have a question, though. The site plan that's dated here, George Lynch, God rest his soul, is dated 7/11, appropriately, 06.
No, it's dated 8/22/06.
No, it's 7/11.
7/11/06. Well, my math is right. It's 10, what is that? 8 years ago.
The ones I've copied are last revised. Are you looking at the wrong date? You have to look on top of the
Oh, it's
landscape
revised
architect.
again, I'm sorry, I didn't see
Yes.
that. Okay.
That's the last
No.
plan
Actually,
of record.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I have a revision date of 8/22/06.
Correct.
I have another revision, so they're all from 2006.
Correct.
Okay. So this is an 8-year-old, at the time approved by planning board landscape plan after the zoning change that was made by the trustees, lowering the square footage down to 4,000.
Yeah, this is all done post rezoning.
Okay. See, one would say that this meets with the current zoning.
Correct.
Okay, but it's still for us to review and comment.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the lighting as well.
Yes.
Were there any discussions on, other than the size of the structure, were there any other discussions on this application?
During what? During the planning board?
Yeah.
I'll go through that.
Okay.
On March 27, 2006, there was a hearing on the revised application after the upzoning, and at that time, at the meeting of the planning board, your counsel, Mr. Robinson, suggested that there be a review conducted between the applicant and the ARB for recommendation on the landscaping issues. Mr. Robinson will write a letter to the ARB to inform them of this issue. At the planning board meeting on April 3rd, 2006, the planning board was advised that a letter of coordination with the ARB is going to be filed. At a meeting of the planning board on April 24, 2006, it was resolved to have a joint meeting with the ARB on May 22, 2006 at 5:30 p.m. to discuss this application. That directive was repeated at a planning board meeting on May 1, 2006, and as far as I can tell on the records that are available to me, there was a joint meeting of the planning board and this board held on May 22, 2006 to discuss the application, including the site plan and including George Lynch's landscaping plan as it was as of May 22, 2006. At a meeting on June 26, 2006, there was another joint meeting of the planning board and the ARB, at which time it was the board's acknowledged receipt of a new screening plan that has been submitted by the applicant. What I can tell from the minutes is that Nelson Pope and Voorhees, who was the consultant for the planning board, had made some comments on the adequacy of the screening, so a new plan was submitted for the joint board's review as of June 26, 2006. On July 31, 2006, there's a letter from Mr. Robinson acknowledging receipt of the landscape plan dated July 26, 2006. Mr. Robinson advised the boards the matter was going to be held in abeyance, awaiting a determination of the joint review of the planning board and the ARB. And at the conclusion of the joint meeting on June 26th, the boards adjourned the session without scheduling a date for the third meeting pending submission of architectural drawings and elevations, which was subsequently submitted to both boards. And they're not the same elevations. It was a different architect at the time. It was Mr. or Ms. Francisco. And now Michael Brown has a different vision for the site, and he's going to discuss that today. But the elevations and drawings were submitted at the request of both boards. And that was done on September 20th, 2006. On November 6th, there was a third joint meeting of this board and the planning board to consider the application. On November 27, 2006,
Can I back up for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, thank you. The change of architects, the change of design, the change of zoning, was when this, what I want to get to is, what is the final landscape plan? What's the date on that?
the last landscape plan is last revised as of August 22nd, 2006.
Okay. Has there been any newer plan in the last 8 years?
No.
Okay. Does this reflect the same structure that's being proposed now?
It does.
Same
footprint.
Correct.
Same footprint.
Same queuing lanes, same footprint. Absolutely. Same lighting.
Just a question.
Same
But as you were just saying, the
photometric plan.
elevations are different.
It's just the design, the architectural details, which Mr. Brown
Which
can...
hopefully we can get into because that's our
Yes.
precedent.
But as far as the size of the building, when you say footprint, is it still a rectilinear building? Is it a square building? Has the size of the footprint been manipulated or changed?
At some point, he's going to go over the design soon.
The size has not changed at all.
Okay, so this is relevant.
Correct.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, so as far as we can tell, there was another joint meeting held on December 11th, 2006 at 6 p.m. with the Planning Board and the ARB. And of course, by then you certainly had the August 22nd, 2006 landscape plan by George Lintz, landscape architect, which shows the particular plantings. And then we get into a whole series of submissions, reviews, denials, 3 lawsuits, and that brings us to where we are today.
Okay.
Hoping.
So what we're here as this board is reviewing from the applicant is the elevations, the architectural integrity of the elevations that you're proposing, the landscape plan, and the lighting. And that will be the limit to our overview, correct?
Right, correct. Now, just one final thing, as I remember in closing, I believe...
One second, Council, am I correct in that?
You concur that.
Could you repeat that?
3 items.
I'll give you the cliff notes.
Give us the short version.
The architecture of the structure, landscape, and lighting.
It's generally what you guys do.
Exactly right. Okay, so we're on the same page.
Just briefly, in conclusion, there was some remarks made at the last hearing. I believe Mr. Blau said in his presentation, you should consider this matter under Chapter 65. Well, Chapter 65 is the Historic District standards. This is not a Chapter 65 application. This property is outside of the Historic District. In fact, it's not even adjacent to the Historic District. We have a
fine line there, saying making that comment.
Well, we have a map that was submitted to the.
Understood, but it's still in a recognized outskirts of the historic district, and we consider it to be a gateway into it. So I would be very careful in making.
Well, I respect your position, and you understand my position.
Are there other comments?
I just want to submit this aerial plan showing the location and the zoning classification for the record. And the site plan that was approved also by direction of the planning board delineated the historic district and the zoning districts.
So we have your attention.
Thank you.
So without further ado, unless you have any questions, I'm going to turn this over to the real expert, the architect Michael Brown from Pospisil and Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you hold on 1 second, please? We have one member who had to walk away briefly.
Wait a minute.
We're going to call for an adjournment, and we'll come back. That way, 2 reasons. 1, so we have a quorum, and 2, so that we can check in on one of our members. So, unfortunately, we can't even make a motion to adjourn. So we're just going to adjourn. Thank you. Proceed, sir. It's a really nice pen.
That's mine. Name's Michael Brown, architect for LMR Associates. To back up a little bit, it is correct, the footprint that is shown on the site plan and the survey has not changed. This building, when it came to me, was only aesthetically altered in terms of the elevations, the roof line, things like that. so those are still relevant in that regard. The materials are the same as discussed last time. I have samples in there on the record as the same, where it is AZEK white trim throughout. It's Anderson insulated glass 400 series windows, wood shingled roof, and the siding remains the same as the last year, as shown as Mabeck Seacoast 204 gray, shingle siding, and we presented for this week a quick massing model. We did have an abbreviated period of time, but a quick massing model for you to understand. Sometimes the drawings are just too flat, and it's hard to understand three-dimensionally what's going on. So this is.
Which is the side that's facing, it's the east elevation?
The east
On the
would
model?
be this one.
Okay, so that's facing, if you're coming down, it's on the Elm Street side, is that correct?
Correct. And that's Hampton Road side. I'll answer any questions that there are regarding the building, but that generally states what it is we're looking to do with this building.
So none of the, you've changed nothing from the initial application when we heard this?
No, not square footage or footprint.
Nothing, no changes in design?
Design only in the sense of the fenestrations on the walls, the roof line. I believe this gable
That's
is
been
new.
bumped, so you've got rid of the boxy.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Subtle things like that, but the
Turn that the other way. Sorry.
This would be Hampton Road.
Right. And you're doing that asymmetrically?
Before we begin
Mm-hmm.
with that,
Okay.
a comment was made about it not being in a historic district, and, I disagree with the, unfortunately, what that sometimes means, and the definition of that is that it's not significant. It's not contributing, it's not within the historic district, and therefore there are other parameters, but this is considered to be one of the major gateways into, and I want that addressed.
It's true that the property is not in a historic district. It is contiguous and adjacent, and in fact virtually surrounded by the historic district as the district extends across Post Crossing and onto Elm Street, and as it extends from below up to Hampton Road, encompassing the now Town Hall. So this property sort of sits between two arms of the downtown village historic district. So I think while special considerations are often obviously extended to properties that are within the historic district, the same sorts of aesthetic issues that concern you could certainly be brought to a property which is immediately contiguous and within the visual sightway of the corridor, which is also within the district. Town Hall, significant structure in the historic district, and this is cat-a-corner to that, opposite, and also opposite the end of Elm Street, which is in the historic district.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from the standpoint of the aesthetic impact of the structure, virtually the same concerns apply as if it were in the district.
Thank you. Thank you. Ham, go ahead.
Before we, on the aesthetics of the building, I appreciate what you're starting to do, which is to put that eastern gable face on and break up the line of the roof. I think you should continue to focus on that. I don't think the cupola, and I think one of our members in the last during the last meeting commented on it, I think it does compete with Town Hall's cupola, which is across the street, and I think trying to take a piece of that historic architecture in the village and transfer it to a much smaller building is kind of silly. Fenestration facing Hampton Road, there's appearance of a stair tower. I'd like to ask you what the reason is on the south elevation of the triple mold units with the transom heads stacked over, if you will, on the model. The triple units on the first floor, they appear to be larger on the second floor with the transom lights, whereas on the first floor the transom lights don't exist, and that would seem to be opposite of what normal intents would be to make the second floor submissive to the first floor. I like your mid-band detail, which I assume is to break up the straight facade, but I'd like to see something on the gable end facing Hampton Road that maybe has a little bit more detail to it with the fascia, the soffit, a frieze board, perhaps a patterned shingle, perhaps something to break up that facade so it becomes a little more detailed, and it meets some aesthetics of the surrounding buildings, although some of the surrounding buildings are mostly brick, not in my taste. I do think that more work can be done with the east facing, which faces Elm Street, which is indeed in the historic district. You can't miss it. And you actually have an entrance coming in from Elm Street, which I'm amazed at and disappointed. But be it as that may, I think that particular attention, and we'll get into that on the landscape, but staying with the architecture, particular attention would be to minimize that, to me anyway, that eastern elevation, that feeling of coming into the village on a westerly fashion, coming into the heart of the village and seeing this long, massive structure, and then also coming out of Elm Street and entering Hampton Road, seeing the appearance on that direction. So I think the breaking up, have you considered, has the footprint size, silly question, but has it limited your architectural?
Yeah, quite a bit, especially reducing from 6,300 square feet down to 4,000.
Right. What would you do with this? What suggestions do you have for us to listen to?
You know, we're under certain limitations as well. We are very sensitive of the historic district. We're not ignoring that.
Because it's not all square footage.
Well,
Just turn so I can see the westerly.
But first of all, the issue with the cupola, we're not just trying to mimic what's across the street. That's a totally different animal as far as I'm concerned. It may fall under the same title, but that's as far as it goes with me. We're not trying to repeat that.
That's why you're glazed and it's open across the street, is that correct?
Pardon me?
Well, the one across the street is round and
yes,
it's open.
To me, it's
to you, it's a different
night
style.
and day. Yeah.
Okay.
And here, this idea is that I just didn't want a straight ridge line. I just wanted to break it up.
Have you thought about breaking the ridge so one side is submissive to the other?
It's possible.
Slightly,
We're also trying to stay within certain limitations of
but
what
that
we
wouldn't
can
affect your
do.
square footage. It would break up that
Yeah.
whole
Right, but-
space and even into 2 or 3 sections, because that's some of the vernacular of the neighborhood there is to have a lot of additive massing and have broken up those ridges instead of just having a straight box.
Right.
I'd like to see
Most of the
something
homes,
else.
especially when you look in Lewis Street and Elm, most of the homes that have that dimension are extensions. You know, there was a main house, and then over time there was an extension put towards the rear because most of the lots were narrow, long lots. That's the reason why you start to see that step down, because per most of our requirements within the village, we ask that the addition be recessed, be recessed down, be submissive to the original structure, and therefore shows the extension of the original structure itself. So that's the reason why you start to see that step down. If you go on Lewis Street, you go on Elm, you go to the other areas of the village where they have long, narrow lots. This is mimicking that style, and maybe that step down will give a more of a I guess, an acceptable feel within the village of Southampton, because it mimics the other architecture, which is local.
Exactly.
The only subtle issue there is that we are trying to, we're hiding all mechanicals.
No,
Of course
we
don't.
understand that, but even an 18-inch drop, you're still going to have the capabilities of your mechanical systems and so forth. And I think a couple of them on this structure, perhaps trying to not force, would create a original portion of the structure. Perhaps that's on the Hampton Road side. Perhaps that's on more inward on the lot, but not just one step down. It's sort of a lick and a prayer, but perhaps 2 or a balance of the two. I'd like to see some options for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that step down. It's a valid point.
Okay.
I would not really want to do two, given the fact that we only have this length to work with. It almost start looking like we're
Well, yeah, we're not looking for the
exaggerating a point.
accordion look. We're
Yeah,
just,
yeah. No, but it's a valid point. That is why we, introduced the gable and the portico on the east elevation.
Good.
And the
Okay.
same image is really created on the west as
why
well
can't
for the
that
cover.
gable be mimicked?
Well, I kind of considered that, but what happened here is that the drive-through width is such that it's not really relating at all to the east gable. So in order to repeat the gable on this side, literally the same size, then it almost dictates what the overhang would be for the drive-through. And, I didn't really see a need to repeat the two. I did want this to be an element on its own. It is far bigger than the one on this side.
What about a more profound center gable? Both sides, and then you bring the bay.
Well, we're fixed on the width
Okay.
here, and we're fixed on the height. We do have, we're minimal on our floor heights as well. In the pitch, we are very sensitive too. That could make or break a look, especially at the gateway of the historic district. We don't want
But you
this-
would be willing to drop and stagger the ridge then. Can we talk about the transoms that you have on the fenestration on the second floor facing Hampton Road as well as Elm Street?
Mhm.
Why such a dominant transom on top of such a large window?
on the front here? Well, it's
Why
just...
not minimize it and make it feel less like a bulging volumetric building and more submissive to the village? Would you consider a different type of fenestration?
Yeah, we could.
You could,
We
okay.
could, definitely. This idea was really maximizing the light for the second floor space.
All right, another question I have. You have a way of not just breaking up the structures with the ridge and with a mid-band detail, but also having a vertical detail in line with the drop-down of the ridge as well. Could that be entertained within the facade of the building?
I'm sorry.
Okay. You have a mid-band detail on the facade. Let's look
Right.
at the, on any of them. Can you also, not to ask you for a bunch of plus signs, but where you're dropping the ridge potentially down, would you also be able to have a thing that delineates
a
that
break.
and expresses it as a submissive addition as opposed to just a continuance and a roof?
That's a possibility. We
Good.
might be limited with square footage. That is
understand.
why we introduced this break on the east as well, where we set
Got
the
it.
floor back
Okay.
a little bit,
So
created
you-
the same railing detail.
I'm not talking about, obviously, it would be nice to reduce the square footage by pulling that in, but is there a way to do it with moldings and so forth to appear to exaggerate the break in the ridge?
And sometimes even a 1 foot step back in the
That would
wall is
be
enough
terrific.
to
And
break that up.
With the ridge being stepped down, with the focus on lessening the fenestration on the Hampton Road side, and with the breaking up to appear as additive massing on the back, I think there would be huge steps in my book to the structure itself.
Yeah,
I know the zoning already brought it down from
Right.
5,000 or 6,000 square feet down to 4, which
Right.
was what we were talking about before. And I think you're putting in this east-facing gable is terrific. It's a great compliment. Now, one other question I have. What about doing a Yankee detail gutter around this building? Most of the houses, or a lot of them on Elm Street, do have them. It's a historic detail where you're building them in, as far as it not being necessarily an appendage or an applique. Having a roof bend like that would soften the ridge. I think it would be terrific. I'd love to explore that.
Yeah, that is a possibility. It
be
may
great.
just come down to carrying that through the building, how we
Exactly.
would do that.
Okay.
And you made a comment about the details. They are in the set of drawings. We're aware of wanting to be as sensitive to the entryway, the gateway of
And
the
I think
historic
with-
district, and that is repeated throughout in our
Got it.
detailing.
Okay, very well. And I think with the addition of perhaps some Yankee gutters, it would give all the more reason for that applique of frieze and so forth.
So
Really
when you say Yankee, you're referring to the inset gutters or
Inset gutters.
not a sweeping?
The inset gutters, it sweeps as well. Both.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
the same thing. The projection out would probably be about
Yeah.
12 to 14 inches.
Right.
But it's a recessed gutter with a crown
Yeah.
that acts, so it's a typical
Mhm.
Yankee style gutter. Do you like those? I mean,
They're if they could be detailed well. I don't like the water, the gutter being in over the interior space.
No, this
because
would
of
be
the-
external.
Right. So
Yeah.
it all has to be within the overhang.
Right, and what drives that is a large eave that would face Hampton Road, a projected eave that would match up the Yankee gutter. So if a Yankee gutter, as an example, goes out about 16 inches by the time it's built up, that fascia would create a very handsome eave, particularly with that roof pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then it would match up the Yankee gutters that you have on Town Hall right across the street, and also for a lot of the houses up and down Elm Street and up and down Post Crossing. If you want to look at an example of a badly built Yankee gutter, you can go to 34 Post Crossing and touch it, and it'll probably collapse.
34?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
But those would be great improvements. Other than that,
Cupola.
I don't have that much of an issue with the cupola. It could be, I'd like to see it with the other improvements.
I had it done where it's only tack glued, so I could pull it off so you could see what it would look like. I really wouldn't want to just take it off. I mean, I think it's nice, but I'm open to ideas
Make
or
up the roof
suggestions.
line. You said you could take it off?
Yeah. Well, I don't rip the roof.
Take the hat
off.
off.
Don't break it.
I know. I
Well, you know,
told
I
her
don't want you to
only
break
little
it.
dots of glue, but we'll have to see what happens.
That's okay.
Elmer's getting stronger. There you go.
Perfect. I think with the Yankee gutters, with the trim, with the vertical detail of dropping down the ridge, I'd love to look at the model.
And I don't think with the drop down, you're going to need the cupola.
No.
You may not?
You might be right.
I think it gives a cleaner look.
Yeah, and if this looks like we're competing, even though that's not my viewpoint,
It's like
if
an
other
imitation
people think
school.
that, then maybe it's worthy of taking it.
I think you should consider it. And just a side note, last time you were here, I may have had my wires crossed, which can happen.
Yes.
The siding, the Malbec siding, which is a painted siding, is that legal with a fire code and all that?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
want to make
because
sure we
the-
weren't going to get a substitution at the last minute.
Right,
anything
right.
like that.
And I looked
A lot of
into
the buildings are brick,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah.
And a lot of the buildings in the village are also a fire retardant, hardy plank, that kind of thing. So you check that, and
Yeah.
its treatment is legal. and
Treatment's
so forth.
legal.
Okay. Very well. I don't have anything else.
Lighting.
on the building.
Yes.
I believe I indicated on the elevations there. I'm not talking about relating to site lighting, more just on the building.
I'm sure you need ATM, you need access, you need.
But yes, we have the two lights that are actually shown on the elevations here that are the decorative.
Two sconces?
Yeah,
Okay.
that are decorative, that historical looking, and
And that's on the Elm Street
actually
side.
they're
I know you
put
were
on here.
proposing any signs right now, but at some point, I'm sure you're going to have a bank, and the bank is going to need
Yeah, and that's all on the lighting plan. We have, I believe there's two under lights here, one here, the two wall lights, and of course the required by the banking industry, and it's on the lighting drawings that you have that there's two underneath.
Are there any ATMs on the Elm Street, or if you will, on the south or north elevation? Or are they retained simply on the west elevation?
No, there's only one
Okay.
ATM, and that's here on the west.
All right.
West.
West, yeah.
Well, I'm more interested in fluorescent lighting. No fluorescent.
There isn't any.
I'm
There-
just making
there's
sure.
just
For
lumens.
the record, we.
Oh, I hate
So do we. That's why we're asking.
No, but almost everything's going LED now anyway. I think fluorescence on its way out.
I agree.
And
Okay.
yeah, the color is awful.
I think again, just to mention it one last time, the proposed eaves, the deeper eaves that are bringing the roof, I think you know that the setbacks are, I believe, not required for that, particularly in this district. So even if you were to come out 20, 22, 26 inches, 24 inches, that would make a very, very huge difference.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure there's public comment. Is there any public comment on this application? Step forward.
Thank you.
I
I take it
Your
they're
name
going
for
to
the
come.
record.
I'm sorry, Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road. I take it they're going to come back with more tweaking of this plans and elevations, which would be great. We'd just like to have an opportunity to see them. But also, I want to discuss landscaping. Is there going to be any revision of this landscaping plan from 2006?
Are there any suggestions? You're saying that there's you had difficulty or issues with the current
Yes, we
proposed-
discussed it last time at the last meeting. There were remarks about the 24-inch trees. There were all kinds of comments made about openings in the landscaping, the amount of landscaping that's shown on the plan that isn't even on the lot. I don't agree that the board has no jurisdiction over that because of an offhand, practically extraneous marking on a planning board approval from 6 years ago. I don't think that strips this
I think the
board of
applicant
this.
has actually admitted that
Yeah.
it would be, it is within our jurisdiction, and they are expecting this board to review the landscape plan.
Okay,
As
so
well
we'll
as
see
lighting.
another one, and we'll have a chance to review it after we see it.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have any comments on the architectural structure? Do you want to wait until after the applicant returns with some suggestions that we've?
I really would. I appreciated your discussion here tonight. I did go to the file today in Village Building Department to see if there was anything new to look at, and there wasn't anything in the file. So I'm seeing this all for the first time. I did appreciate the discussion and look
Okay.
forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Linda. Any more public comment?
Hi, I'm Susan Hofdizevin, 95 Post Crossing. It's interesting to live in a historic house and have this structure be compared to it, but I would like to see a change in the roof line because it would be to reflect some of the houses in the neighborhood. Also, there are some people who can't be here tonight. There's an 88-year-old woman who lives to the south of the property, and it would be great if you could just let me know how I can get the landscape plan in a large enough size for her to be able to see it, her relatives to be able to see it, because I'm new at this and I don't know how I would go about getting that.
The file will be returned to the building department tomorrow. You have the opportunity to go and foil the file, and
Okay.
any information you need will be available there.
But the landscape plan from 2006 is the one that I should use.
Well, as of right now, that's the plan.
Okay,
That's
but I mean the new one.
There has not been any proposed,
Okay.
any new or
So maybe
revised
wait.
since then.
So maybe wait to show that to her.
Correct.
Okay.
so, yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Susan, do you have any comments on the architectural
Yeah,
model at this point, other than the roof and
Well,
some of the
you know-
discussions? You want to wait until after?
Well, I would say that living in the neighborhood, there's more cedar-style buildings there, not the gray. There are some gray ones, which is, unique to our neighborhood, but there are more cedar shape, and the roof lines are certainly much more intricate than that structure.
Okay, so on the siding, you'd prefer to see a natural cedar?
I'd like to
as
see
opposed to a
both,
stained?
but I think a natural cedar that grays and ages over the years. This reminds me of the other commercial buildings that are there that kind of stand out. Also, I'd like to know as part of the site plan where the garbage is going to go, because we already endure a lot of garbage trucks in and out of Hampton Road. So will there be a structure that will be screened for where the garbage cans
As
go?
far as the screening plan?
The screening, just the
that relates
screening,
the
yes,
same
of
thing that
course,
we
just
did
the
at
screening.
Bridgehampton National Bank's application, where we looked at that as well as
Right.
part of it, as part of an identifier with the landscape
Great.
screening plan. Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Any more public comment?
Would you be willing to look at this as far as natural cedar, as opposed to, we know it's cedar, but as opposed to?
It's a possibility.
Possibility, okay.
Personally, I have no problem with it. I'll just have to discuss
Great,
it with the court.
okay, good.
Any more public comment?
Briefly, if the public's done. I didn't catch who you represented, Linda?
She's a homeowner in the village of Southampton.
You have to address us.
You have to, first, I'm sorry, you have to address the board.
Yeah, because last time, I've known Linda a long time. We
Then you
hold
know
her in the
that her
highest
office is
regard.
also on Hampton Road.
there.
Right, last time, but last time I believe if I'm correct, I correctly heard her, she said she was representing someone on Hampton Road. She didn't say she was representing herself.
No, I'm representing a homeowner on Elm Street.
Okay.
I have a client, a homeowner on Elm Street,
Right.
very close to the bank.
So would you disclose their name for the record? I think you have to sign in.
I don't see any reason for
I have no problem with that.
If she wishes to do so. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Ms.
the homeowner is Siedentoff, and it's at, gosh, I'm blanking out, pardon me? 39 Elm Street.
Okay, thank you.
39 Elm
No,
Street.
I'm not being nitpicky. It's important for the record. I'm not bullying the Our concern is that people have standing to make their objections to the board. The clients should be disclosed by the attorney.
Okay.
And I know when we were before the planning board, Ms. Riley appeared in opposition representing the owner of 57 Hampton and 67 Hampton, which is Ms. Pastor.
Okay, no, I think you made it clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, at our last meeting, we made commentary about this landscape plan and it being, and it was addressed this evening again. It doesn't seem that any changes have been made about the proper marking of both the height of the various trees that are being proposed on the site. I don't believe that you're proposing 24-inch trees.
I believe that comment, Mr. Chairman, came from a member of the public, and they misread the plan. Those inches are the diameter of the trunks. They're not the height of the tree.
Okay, it just says
the diameter
it says
of the
planting size.
existing.
It doesn't give height. Doesn't say diameter. It
No,
just
the
says
24 inches, like the elm that's existing on the property to the north, that has 24 inches. That's obviously not the height of the tree.
Oh,
It's the
that's-
girth of the tree, and that's consistent throughout the plan.
Understood, but your plans don't specify that. It just gives a size. It doesn't give specification as it width or height. So it's just, in other words, it's incomplete. It's anytime, and I'm sorry, your counsel, when you send information in, it has to be complete information as to what you're defining.
Well, the 24 inches is the diameter.
It's the caliper. What he's saying, Mr. Chair, is that the caliper or the diameter of the
I understand what he's
tree
saying.
itself
Just
was-
saying, but the height has not been identified on the
The
landscape.
height of the existing trees in the neighborhood?
Of the trees that are being proposed.
We're not proposing those. Those are existing.
I think let me just back up a second. I think what we are.
Can you let me finish, please?
Of course, Curtis, you can
So
finish.
what's in our landscape plan is all proposed, I'm sorry, all existing.
No, the perimeter is existing. What's going to happen in the interior is the proposed, and all of those are specified in great detail. The gallons of the bushes, the gallon pots.
Let him explain himself, please.
We're looking at Mr. Lynch's plan, and I spent some time, I took those comments to heart, and we sat, obviously we can't speak to Mr. Lynch, unfortunately, but the only way the plan makes sense, it's the existing trees around the perimeter that are there, and that's the diameter of the tree. Everything interior is obviously going to be new, and that's all specified on the plant schedule, the species, the scientific name, the common name, and the planting size, and that's all correct. So we went through that. So I think it was just a misinterpretation of the plan. So I
Agreed.
think everything you need is there. I hope we were able to clarify that. We actually spent a few hours scratching our heads.
But the thing
I don't
is,
think it addresses everything.
It doesn't address everything, that's the
Well,
problem.
what is it that it has to address?
For example, whenever I look at a landscape plan, the first thing I look at is what is existing and what is proposed. You're not defining either or, and we have to go under the assumption of which is which.
Well,
hear me out. When a neighbor or a person comes into the building department and reviews a file, unfortunately, they don't have the ability to determine that. So we're trying to make files user-friendly for those that are viewing, along with those that are such as ourselves that are making recommendations or looking at this for the first time.
Well, if I could help shed some light on it, this plan read in conjunction with the site plan, there is no existing plantings on the site. Everything is gone. The existing trees that are on the perimeter
Okay.
are depicted on the plan. So everything on the site plan, given the nature of the construction and what's going to happen here, that's going to be wiped clean and then replanted per this plant schedule. And if you want to review the plant schedule and make suggestions as to what to change, I mean, that's certainly fair game. But everything is planted where it's supposed to be according to the approved site plan. Mr. Lynch's plant schedule brings his expertise as a landscape architect to the site, and this is what he's picked out, and it's submitted for your review. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
If I can just interject, the way I'm reading this, these large circles that surround the property.
Canopies.
Are,
They're the canopies.
labeled EX period, existing.
Right.
Right.
So they're all existing.
Yep.
The only exception are these two hedges on the westerly side, which are labeled as existing. And then everything else.
And then the island. Can I just ask you a
Everything else-
question about
Of course.
I'm so
Just wanna
sorry, because
schedule.
I
No, that's
wasn't
fine.
in the last meeting.
Yes.
So I'm catching up, but these are the ilex that are going along the border where the Hudson residence is, right?
Yes.
And we have those as 4.5 feet. I think in the key,
4.5 to 5.
or am I reading that wrong?
Yep,
Planting
all the way to
size,
the right. Yep.
4.5
Are you talking
to
here?
5.
Sure.
Yes, planting
Inches.
side. That's when they're planted.
Okay, when they're planted.
When they're planted.
When they're planted.
So when they go in, they're going, and then you're.
They're gonna be tiny.
I'd just like to point out as an aside that the bank across the street, the Bridgehampton Bank on the
Yes.
corner of Hampton Road, was also adjacent to a residence. And we worked really hard. Actually, the planning board and the architecture review board worked hard on that landscaping plan to give that residence as much privacy as possible. And a lot of trees went in that were very tall, so the privacy was immediate. We weren't waiting for them to grow. So I would just like to see more height there.
I mean, the
Calipers
species
are
to be
greater.
higher.
Plants were heavier. You have 3-gallon plants. What I'd like to see, if you will, obviously the tree that's existing, that's right in the middle of your driveway is going to get cut down. So that's not going to be relative to this plant. Also, the calipers in the last 6 years, or 8 years, have changed. Some have gotten bigger, some are maybe not necessarily there, et cetera. So if we get a refreshing of this based upon the approved one, that'd be great. I think what you're asking for is to increase the calipers, why don't we get your landscape architect here? Your architect.
Get the landscape guy in?
Not George. George was a friend of mine. I appreciate it if you would recognize the fact that we all know that he was a great guy. He was a volunteer for the village as well. Nevertheless, why don't you get a landscape architect to come in and redo this plan, bring it up to
Do
speed?
you have a
Do
replacement?
you have one?
No.
Okay, so that's pretty much the concern. I'm sorry, the issue
Yeah,
is that
I
you don't
don't
have
think-
anyone as replace Mr. Lynch's work as of yet.
Not as of today.
Would you agree to be able to do that and work with us?
Certainly.
Okay. So if we can update this, if we can focus on the west elevation, which is the building that's adjacent to one of our members who are recusing themselves, but
I don't
nevertheless.
understand that gap there.
The point, if I can finish, please. The point is, that's a hedge that it grows and dies, becomes transparent. I'd like to see an evergreen boundary on that side. I'd agree with my fellow board member that I'd like to see significant increases for the size of these by a registered architect who's going to follow through and make sure the calipers are correct and so forth.
Gotcha.
That's all.
And
I think that's where we need to start. And I think your architect is a terrific guy. He's coming back, he's receptive to many of the things, at least in presenting that to your client. And I think the way we worked with Bridgehampton National Bank is they were equally
We actually
as
went to
receptive.
the site with the
Yeah.
landscape architect.
With their
welcome to do
landscape.
that. I mean, we're not here
Let's
to
do
say
it.
don't come to the site. This is
Okay.
the point of information. The privet, that's not on our property.
We understand that.
And there's nowhere to plant anything.
We understand that. So, but your landscape architect could lay that out for us instead of, this, we know that you have won your Article 78. We know that your architect is being very flexible and listening to our comments, both the members that are present now and not, and that we want to try to do the same thing with the landscape.
Fine.
And I think the landscape could be coordinated with the lighting, and that's up to the chair. And I beg your pardon for interrupting you earlier.
okay.
But we have been through this, many of us as members of this board have been going through this for years, and I think it would be a good tool. Your architect came up with a terrific tool, with positive feedback. Let's do the same on the streetscape.
That's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Just one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, you mentioned the ingress on Elm Street. We was stuck with that.
I know you were. I know you were.
Yeah,
We've done our homework.
wasn't our
and-
first choice.
Yeah, we understand that, and a lot of us have been back and forth into the files, but I think we need to get an active landscape architect who can communicate with our board and with the members of the community.
We will get that.
Thank you. Are you asking for a?
Yes, please.
Any further public comment? Please step forward.
Okay, you realize we're going to adjourn this to another meeting.
Let her come and speak.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Tony Ann Warren, I'm the property manager for 5767 Hampton Road. Just with the landscape, I'd like one thing brought to the attention. The privet that's existing is removed. It looks like it's going to be a drive-through between 77 Hampton and this property. There are already bylaws, declarations, whatever it is, that state that there is not allowed to be a drive-through. The existing privet is there. I have pictures. Why remove that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comment? Anything further from the board?
Nope.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant of LMR on Hampton Road to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next application is 239 White Street LLC for construction of new two-story single-family dwelling.
Good evening.
You're taking off?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sweetie. Call me tomorrow when you have a chance, okay? All right. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Joe Roberto. I'm the owner and developer of 239 White Street. This is our third time in front of this board, basically because of the requests that different board members have made for us to do changes on the house, and there were over a dozen of which I totally agree were needed to be made. And I think it enhances the house tremendously, and there were over a dozen that were made. I'm sure everybody knows the property. It's a 1-acre site.
Joe, let me just ask you a question. This mini set, does this match, as a licensed architect, does this match these sets?
Yes.
And are these sets new to the file?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a revised application, I'm sorry, revised...
Revised application, revised sets.
Revised sets, and these mini sets, in fact...
Are the same.
Thank you. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm sure you know this is a 1-acre property that has been totally perimeter transplanted with new trees of arborvitaes, cryptomeras, and Leland cypresses, 14 to 16 feet high. There's approximately 160 new trees around the perimeter, and many more to be planted. There's also a full architectural detailed landscape plan with this. Last time, not everyone had a chance to get to the site. Hopefully by this third meeting, everybody did see the site. The last couple of meetings, there were no complaints from neighbors about the size, shape, color, or height of the house. So hopefully that's not going to be a problem. And I'm just hoping that the third time is going to be a charm tonight. We can get moving forward with this. With that, Ron Villano.
Hello, level architect. We have addressed all the changes and we're in agreement with your suggestions. And from the first and second meeting, we have applied those to these. And we have three options. If you see 4O, A, B, and C, the first sheet being A, second B, and third is C. The difference in each of these is in the first one, we added some more detail to the front, a pergola roof over the front door. And we also had some columns and made the front door more pronounced.
So A is the pergola in front.
Yes.
With the pilasters at the door.
Yes.
And what other changes?
The two columns at the sides, pilaster more evenly proportioned.
Are those columns or are those columns for the pergola?
Those are columns for the pergola.
Okay, so they're not columns for anything else in open structure.
And additionally, we made the windows larger at the front as requested. So now everything is more balanced. At the option B, Everything's the same except for there's a shed roof instead of a pergola over the front door.
So your only change is the entrance pergola? You still have the pair of mold units on either side?
Yes, it's just, it matches the roofs at each side. So it's a shed roof.
And what about the roof changes? Any roof changes on either one of these options?
Roof changes,
Pitches, changes in direction?
we toned it down. We brought it down, made it simpler.
Are there any difference between option A and B? I don't.
No,
see
those,
anything.
the roofs are the same.
Again, the only difference is the shed roof on the front.
Is that, yes, and also the windows, all right, yes, exactly. But from the last meeting, window sizes were changed, things were made more proportion. The lintel over the front door was made proportion to the side pilasters against the wall. On option C, in addition to all those changes, which was another recommendation, was to make the fascia not as wide and also the overhang not as deep, which we did in option C. And you
I'm
can see
sorry,
that
slow down
comparison.
again, please. Option C, I'm looking at still back at the pergola.
It's the pergola option,
Uh-huh.
but on this one, the fascia and the overhangs were reduced.
When you say reduced,
Not as
they were
wide.
sharpened?
Not
So
as
in other
no.
words, you increased the pitch of the
No.
center gable?
No, we did not increase the, just the width of it is now narrower. If you look at,
You pulled the rakes in?
just pulled it all, yeah, it's just narrow, the freeze board
Made it
and the
pointier.
fascia.
Got it.
It's
Sharper.
It's not pointier.
Okay.
Optically, it looks sharper because the.
Yes, yeah, visually, it would appear.
Different.
The pitch is the same.
Sharper.
Here, look.
No, the pitch is the same.
Wider
If
here.
you look
No,
here.
I see it. I see it.
It's narrower.
Believe me, I
Yeah,
got
I
it.
know, okay.
This is
It's
narrow,
hard to
so
see
the
from
width
many
between here and here, let's just say we're gonna take it
Saying the
6.
steepness of that is.
Oh, the angle's the same. It was just,
Well, it-
yeah. And then the overhangs reduced. Then on side elevations, as requested, the second floor windows were brought down. So
In
it's
all the
not-
options.
Exactly. So it's not as wide. We don't have the cottage style on the second floor, which we did.
Right, okay, so working from the top, you've made some proposals to modify to do a Dutch sort of return, change the fenestration on the second floor. I think those are great improvements. What I'm still confused with, out of these options, the one that least, or most, I think, pleasing is the option of the shed, but I still think that a flat and detailed railing detail of that type, or a conventional porch over the front, it could be have a railing, because you have that
We did
detail
not
in
do
the back
that
of the
because
house.
if it's not going to be used, this board is always against having a railing.
Not necessarily. Decorative railings are always encouraged.
I've always been
I
told.
I disagree. I
If
like.
they're 22 inches or less, they're always encouraged.
Well, encourage or not, I disagree that that would be on this
An
particular.
aesthetic
I think-
issue.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think it would make the front end way too busy. It would just give. It'd be too much.
If I can
Well,
interject,
if I can just say one thing, Mr. Chair, if you look at the A4.04B, and you look at that sort of railing, the way it combines the two gables in the front, and then look at the front, perhaps it would, some sort of incorporation of that could be looked at.
I
You
think
see
it's
what I'm
simpler.
saying here?
can I just say something? We tried that. We did a drawing, and it was
You did.
much too busy.
It's too busy.
It's just too busy, and I really don't want to go that route.
Out of the
I think
options-
this is the cleanest, straightest forward.
Out of the options, Joe, A40.
But Joe, just to let you know, I'm actually in favor of the overhang with the narrow.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean,
Okay.
if
That's
there's
no
going to be a
problem.
comparison
Yeah,
between
sure.
the
I would agree, the
Which
narrow
one?
one, the narrower one is more
Okay.
Yeah.
appealing.
Okay.
I have a question about the shutters. I'm trying to understand why some of the windows have them and some of the windows
But there
don't.
wasn't room on some of them. So the ones that did have room, it also makes that more pronounced, because the ones that do not have it, it would have gotten too busy as well, because they're in smaller areas and niches. And it's three-dimensional, so those pieces are further back. So it almost gives the left and right side those windows that are more important. So these become subservient. those other ones in the back, and there was not
Submissive.
enough room. Submissive as well.
Submissive, right.
Well,
I'm-
then
I'm-
in that case,
Yeah.
on your north elevation,
This is
do away
for-
with
for
the
OB.
one shutter.
Yeah,
shutters.
yeah.
It's just-
Why
Yeah,
not?
I agree.
It has
I
no
agree.
purpose.
That's the backyard, and why not? Yeah, I have no issue with that. Remove that, yeah.
So we're looking at A4OB as being the preferred plan, is that correct?
With a narrower.
And we'll do the narrower fascia,
the narrower fascia.
which
I-
we show on the other one.
I personally think it would look a whole lot better without the shutters. I think it would be just a lot cleaner.
Well, the thing is with this style house, the shutters kind of give it an extra little detail. It would become too blank on this facade to have,
Okay.
to just have lineals. And then to put wider lineals, it just would go against it.
I'm sorry, guys, I have one more question. The shed roof is on this one as well?
The shed roof is on this one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
have you considered doing a panelization below the windows that are stacked above the front doors?
You know what?
opposed-
We were,
do
and
a
it's too busy.
conventional
It was too
LCC
busy again. I have an option in there like that, and it was too busy.
Too busy again.
Yeah.
Pam, the consensus was to tone the house down.
Yeah.
We took
understand that.
scallop shingles out,
We
we've
took a lot
changed
out.
windows.
Guys, I just want to make sure you're looking at it all different angles.
yeah.
I'm fine
We've
with the
looked at
option of the
everything.
sharper roof,
Yep.
and I agree
I
with both of
understand
these
what-
guys.
what you're saying, and
I
yeah,
think
we
you've
had
made
it.
a lot of good steps, I'm fine with it.
I just want to mention that although Brian's not here this evening, I think his comment addressed the
Second story.
very extended projections of the roof lines as they came down, and I think the only option you presented is C. It has brought back the depth of that extension, bringing that in. So I think, I don't want to speak on behalf of Brian, but I know that that was.
But thank you for pointing that out, and that is, yes.
Concern was how exaggerated those deeply overhanging roof lines were on the first floor. And my only comment was I find it just aesthetically, again, it's a new house, but it's emulating historical designs, is that you're using paired windows to flank the front door.
Exactly.
And.
We mentioned that the last meeting.
Furthermost on either side are sitting behind the columns, which is also a little awkward. I think those should just be single windows, because that would be less cluttered, less window.
It's an aesthetic, and if you allow me
Again,
to,
it's an-
if you,
Check it out.
that's what you want, I could put it on there, put my stamp next to it, my initial, and I'd be more than glad to do that.
Because they should not compete.
I really
the
don't
same
want
as the rest of the
okay, but I have to move forward, Curtis, on this project. It's been, like I said, no neighbors have come forward, nobody is complaining. I mean, we have to move forward with this. So I would rather leave it like this, unless you hear somebody else to complain. I don't see anything wrong with it. That's his opinion. If it would get it
Well,
done
that's what
tonight.
I'm here for, with
I-
all
I
due
underst-
respect.
Okay, guys.
I'm not a neighbor. I'm
I
here
underst-
for that purpose.
I understand
And so I
that.
don't think we can equate.
I understand
what the neighbor's concerns and thoughts are.
Okay, but you
We're
are not-
talking about aesthetic
Just to let you know,
judgment.
yeah,
I'm just
we understand
stating
typically
reality.
when there's argument with neighbor.
Okay, I would personally.
Hear me out 1 second. There's usually argument with neighbor or conflict with neighbor with you. Then we, not that we adhere to what those comments are, but we take a little light into hearing the suggestions of our neighbors. Absence of that doesn't negate the fact that we still have our own
I understand.
recommendations and our own,
I personally like the way it looks the way it is now. If my opinion is not to change it. I like it. We've done over a dozen changes to this house.
A dozen.
Over a
And as
dozen.
per the board.
Guys.
And this width on side of the doors, there's a good amount of space, and
You've improved it.
Okay, I don't have a problem with the windows. Don't have a problem with the roof lines. If you're asking me A, B, or C, I take a piece of C and a piece of D and put it together and make E.
Okay.
So that's, and I think we've made that we've made it known. We would go with the more narrower gable with the overhang, and I'm fine with it in removing the shutter at the rear of the property because it has no purpose. It just sits there and has no means, no purpose, no anything at all. And I'm fine with the project as the challenges. I don't have that plan here.
Exactly.
So you're
What
saying.
plan?
That
Well,
plan.
it's in that set, and you could, it's in the large set, and between B and C, if you want, we put an approval on B and then put a note to say, use the fascia, the narrow fascia. Because they have to
This
come
large
back to
set
another
is
meeting
dated,
and wait 2 hours.
May 28th. Is that the one you're referring to?
I'm sorry?
The large set is dated May 28th.
The one, yeah, I just gave, yes.
You're saying that purview.
We can approve B and C and say, all right, we're gonna use B, but we're gonna go with the narrow fascia. I will put my initials and my stamp, I have it with me, and
Right, rather than come back and waste
Just for that.
another 2 weeks.
I have no issue with that. You're not a licensed architect, you're the architect on
Yes, yes, I am.
record?
Yes, I am.
Board members, do you have an issue with that?
I don't have any issues with it on this. I think you've addressed a number of our concerns. However, I will say one thing very clearly.
And it's to, yeah.
And that is on the gables on the front. I think you could have done a little bit more work there. And I'd like to know precisely right now, what is your projection of these gambrel roofs out beyond the siding?
What is coming out, that's in that 3D that we had given you, and I think
I
it's.
wanna know what the measurement
it's,
is.
You mean like the rake, the actual rake that's
Far
coming
out
out?
is that- does that
Oh, it's
project?
approximately 6 inches, it's not far, it's just a freeze.
Can you make that 18 inches so it's heavier, more shadow line, and more texture to it?
That's
Have a
fine.
flying.
That's fine.
That would soften the entire facade of the
Yeah.
gables.
I agree, it's
fine.
difficult to see.
And it's, and I think that that's the standard. And I think that just 6 inches is.
You want
okay.
18 inches, you said on that?
18-inch flying rakes, yeah.
Coming out, flying
Yeah,
gables,
sure.
flying ridges, or flying gables, rather. Okay.
You want
And
a
I don't
couple
have
of
any
minutes to work
issues.
on that and then come back and then we'll make our.
Yeah, if you can give
Why
us,
don't you do that?
we can do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it, very
Avoid.
fair.
Thank you.
Any public comment on the application? We're not going to adjourn it now, we're going to hold it open, and then you'll come
You guys
back.
come
and-
back in a little while, okay?
Thank you.
Next application is Wayne and Lisa Miller on 24 Somerset for construction of driveway gates.
How you doing today? I'm Zachary Crawford from Michael Derrick Landscape Architect, representing Lisa and Wayne Miller.
Plans?
We have made, could I please submit these? 5 revised
24 Somerset.
drawings. At the request of the board, we've
Thank you.
increased the transparency. Modified the design. The client still wanted to keep a 1 horizontal member, so it wasn't complete spindles from top to bottom of the frame.
For the record, what is the spacing now?
The spacing is 2 3/4 inches between 1.5 inch thick spigots or spindles.
Ham?
How many gates are on Somerset?
On Somerset,
Yes.
there's 2 on Pleasant, which is just off of
2 on Pleasant
Somerset.
Lane?
Yeah.
And how many on Somerset? Because mostly those are open to open lawns. That's the theme of the sense of the neighborhood. But this is, the transparency on here is fine. I just have one question. What is your material on the outside? You say white PVC piers. Is this wood? Is it AZAC?
AZAC.
AZAC? And is it going to be white? Or?
It would be white.
And are these automated gates?
They're not, they don't want them to be automated
Right,
initially.
because you don't have the depth to have these legally there. And I just want to ask again, has the building department looked at this for the recess of the gates to be according to code, which is 23 feet back? And on Somerset, I would doubt that you have any more than 6 or 8.
Who knows?
No, these are, we were proposed to have these 18 feet off the street.
How far recessed are they?
Do we have a survey?
18 feet off of the,
You're 18 feet, what is the code?
18 feet as far as the building department.
Okay.
Surveys marked 18 feet. Are we correcting the 18 feet being the requirement?
I don't think it's code, I think.
I don't think it's code at all.
It's a
Recommendation.
standard to which they hold, that 18 feet encompasses most.
But that has to do with fire trucks or.
Fire trucks.
Deal with any truck
Making the
delivering.
Bicyclists, cars, you know, that kind of thing. And it's in a neighborhood that has very few gates. I understand what they want to do, but if we could check on that, subject to meeting the code.
But there's
the
no
trans-
code, is what Council's saying. There's no specific code. It's a requirement based on.
I believe it's a determination by the building department.
Yeah, it is a code.
I believe it is 18 feet is the code.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, on the aesthetics of the gates, I'm fine with them. I would just want to make sure that they were set in a proper location, if in fact they have to be setback
Is
within.
the issue the setback, Ham, or whether there are gates there or not?
I just said, I think the gates that are in that neighborhood, it's not there's not a lot of gates on Somerset or Pleasant. Most of that community is all
So it's
open.
not the setback you're concerned about, it's whether or not there's a gate there.
No. I think the setback I am concerned with because a lot of the sidewalks along that area are very, very close to the street. I don't think they have 22
There is a
feet.
sidewalk.
There are no
on
sidewalks on Somerset.
Sorry. The way the houses are there, Bo, it's very clear. You've been on Somerset. The fact is,
Well, we
if
talk
they-
about sidewalks, and I don't think there are any sidewalks. If you want to talk about houses, let's talk about
No, I don't want to talk about sidewalks or houses. What I want to talk about is the placement of the gate would be contingent on the code, and I'd like to see verifications from the building department, number one. Number two,
Well, you need to tell
if this is set back within the property
Sorry?
because of,
You need to tell the applicant what to do.
you're asking the question.
No, I'm not asking a question.
You would. You asked if there was
I asked if
concern
you
with
had an
sidewalks.
issue with the gate
Oh, I'd
per
like to
se
move
or
on.
the setback.
I would have an issue with the gates being positioned where they are, because if in fact they do not meet the code, then they would have to be set back further, a lot further, and that would be a concern of mine.
We don't have a quorum without his vote. I have no
I
problem
don't
with
think we should
this.
avoid it. I think that on First Neck Lane, on other areas of the village, we've seen example after example of the gates being approved where they've actually been set back.
Well,
and
then
they're
you're talking
far-
about the setback.
Yes, whatever it is. Well, I'm not a
Well,
lawyer.
Which is it? That's all I'm asking. If you're talking about the
If
setback.
you want to pick a fight with me, I'd
I'm
be
not
happy to.
picking a fight. I just
Okay?
like to know
But
what-
the
seriously,
bottom line is,
we-
I'm talking about the aesthetics of the gate for the fourth time are fine with me.
Then
Look,
it's the
bottom line
aesthetics.
is, bottom line, we
Okay.
don't have a quorum without him.
We have a quorum right here. Me and I have no problem approving it. All I'm simply
Okay.
asking, Mr. Chair, is to have the setback checked by the building department.
Great. Any public comment on the application? We will check, however, it seems like we have the votes this evening.
Okay.
So motion to approve the application as submitted. However, we will do a further investigation to determine that the setbacks are within the requirements of the village of
Correct.
Southampton. Okay?
I
Motion
make a
to-
motion to approve the application for Wayne and Lisa Miller, 24 Somerset Avenue for driveway gates, subject to verification of the setback by the building department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Recall.
Sets.
Recall the application of 239 White Street.
Second.
Don't need, it was never
Don't
closed.
need to, never closed.
Thank you.
Did you mark up all the plans?
Yes. And I
Sorry,
signed stamped
yeah.
over each.
So for the record, the changes you made were the gables are projected out how many inches?
18 inches,
As opposed to 6?
as opposed to 6.
Okay. The elevation or the
The fascia and frieze is going to match C.
fascia and frieze are going to be tightened, as are in option
C.
C,
And remove shutters at rear.
and remove shutters at rear.
And you're doing the
And the
shed
shed
roof?
roof
Yes.
above the entrance.
Yes, it's that, B, yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
And no gates.
No gates.
Very good.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the application for 239 White Street LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, good luck.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good luck.
Nicola Di Rio, 127 Moses Lane for two-story family dwelling with attached garage.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Russell Blue, the architect. It's my design associate, Frank Pavello. I have some updated plans based on some comments that were done last time. I also have a little bit of a narrative. Yeah. I don't know if any of you got a chance to get to the site or not, but I just wanted to go over a couple of points. We had discussions with our neighbors to the south, Fred Eaton and Cynthia Johnston, who reviewed the project and the model and have attached, I have an attached signed letter of support from them. They're the property directly to the south. To the north, we met with the architect of the property, Kitty McCoy, who went through our design and didn't come up with any issues that they had, and we're just waiting for a letter of support from them right now.
The last meeting, council brought up the pyramid law.
Yeah.
Well, I think you wanted to probably see this. Can you pass one of these to our attorney?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Because the big issue that was brought up was whether, and I think you and Brian spoke about it, Bob, was the original, or if you will, that, sorry.
We're going to come to that.
Oh, you are, okay.
Yeah, I was just
All
going to
right.
go through a couple things.
Okay, besides the support letters, I think we wanted to look at the law
No, no, we're
more
gonna-
than anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Okay.
Let me
Thank
just
you.
go through this real quick, and then we'll address anything. Just as a couple of comments, the property directly to our north is a much bigger lot. It's almost twice, not quite twice, but 0.75 acres, and we're 0.47 acres. And the length along our common property line is about 70 feet. And you can't see it from that angle, but it only comes into play.
The existing house from here to here, and its garage from here to here.
Okay, and the pictures we've attached show the screening that's in place now. And that's regarding the property on the north. To the south,
We have a photograph of that in the packet, do we?
Yes.
Of the north property?
Yes.
well, we're showing you the
Yeah,
edge,
the house is in the packet.
further in.
Okay.
Right, it-
Oh, there's houses, the pictures of the house in the file.
Okay. Please
Okay.
continue, sorry.
That's okay. So, in any event, we wanted to just show that the screening is there now. The property to the south, who is supporting our design, as a matter of fact, we did that house to the south. Also
Okay.
was taken into consideration when we designed this whole thing.
And at the back half of it, really, there's no windows facing our property.
Got it.
Second half.
Okay. We have privet there now. I'm skimming through because I don't
That's
have to
fine.
read
No,
it for
take
you.
your time.
I mean, there's only a small window on that back property to the south, and that's about it. Property to the east, we have an 12-foot high privet, large tree. The neighboring house across the street is a stucco with a red Spanish tile roof. It's set back and hardly be seen even in the winter due to the surrounding tall trees. We reviewed the pyramid code with the building department. We made an adjustment for the interpretation of the code that we first went through. So we have, we actually moved the house south 2 feet further in. And I have, the diagram is on that third page. The existing,
About this.
yeah.
Okay.
The existing house has a 9.3-foot side setback instead of the 10.4, and a 34.9-foot front setback instead of the 40-foot. We've had it measured, and the roof line there is 22 foot. We met with the building department, and the 10.4 setback was what was required, but we're going to move it to 12.4 feet. You know, it is a narrow lot, so we're limited in what we can really
The
accomplish
solution we
here.
worked out with Mr. Boot, basically a flat dormer, the length of the bedroom, it's basically a flat roof dormer.
Okay.
For the bedroom and bathroom on this side. It's,
Do you have headroom?
so we have headroom in the bedroom.
So you have 76,
Yeah, so
okay.
the rest of the second floor, we're cutting into the room and so that we're just following the pyramid.
So you're now conforming,
Yes.
whereas before you were not.
Yes, but it was, yes.
It was more because we didn't, it was a mutual interpretation. It wasn't that we didn't want to conform.
Okay.
Mutual interpretation?
It was a miscommunication.
It was a miscommunication.
We don't want to blame anybody and so,
Really politically correct.
Really? You guys are good.
yeah. But we made the adjustment, so now it's compliant.
Very good.
Did you look at the roof material?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna look to-
Yeah. We eliminated we did a couple of things. We entertained the idea of doing either a copper roof or maybe a copper colored metal roof, and even entertaining the idea of cedar shingles. We're not married to any of these necessarily, but many of them exist. Yeah, and the shed in the front, that shed roof elevation that we had, we turned into a small railing, windowless
Nice.
balcony. We filled in that gap in the bottom where you thought it was a door.
Eliminate any confusion about the front door.
Right.
No, it's much better.
It's much better, I like it. But the roofing material again, we sort of went around in
It's
circles.
cedar where you don't see lines, and we're saying that it would either be, because instead of doing the light gray stain, we
Right.
went to natural cedar to match our neighbors.
Okay.
With the white trim, the
Which is-
brick matches our neighbors. It's
Which is the
Danish.
vernacular of the neighborhood,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Right.
our
The
neighbor-
chimney is still painted white?
No. It's,
No, it's gonna be red
Danish-
brick. In
Danish
fact, I have-
red
Danish
brick.
blend? Okay, that's fine.
This one.
Got it, okay.
And where you see this, we're saying it'll either be copper, or it'll be bronze, or it'll be, end up being shingle, depending on what the cost. We're still looking at the cost. But there's copper, raised seam roofs throughout the village.
Yep.
So
And the
we-
pitch on that is what, 412 or something?
This
We
is-
need a final decision on what material you're using.
We need a
as part of-
decision tonight on the material. I would be
Thank you for
fine
that,
with.
though. It's
Okay,
part
say-
of a full
say-
application
say
is
bronze.
required.
Medium bronze. I have a color. Right here.
Okay, so it's the bronze here.
It's bronze then.
That's that dark bronze.
Okay.
medium
I
bronze.
prefer a cedar on there, actually.
Yeah, we'll come to, but we want to differentiate the massing in certain
I see.
places.
Okay.
We can,
How big is that? How big is the top, the cap, so to speak?
The width of
Oh,
the,
the size of it?
17.6,
17, okay.
yeah, by 13, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
think
not
that's right.
large. Okay.
yeah,
You're
it's-
hardly going to see it. You'll see the picture on the last page, that by the time it's built,
Got it.
you could hardly see the,
Right, it's subtle.
And you're using that on that pavilion down by the pool as well.
Yeah, I don't,
yeah, for that you can't,
okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
yeah.
And the rest of it's natural cedar, so it's,
Yeah.
I got it, okay. I see it.
Actually, it looks,
Looks
we
nice.
built this house over right off of Ox Pasture,
Yep,
so that's what you're
Okay.
looking at.
I don't have any issues with it.
Any public comment on the application? Anything further from the board?
Nope.
Thank you for your changes, thank you for your patience and timing going over the application. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve Nicola Dorio at 127 Moses Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Good
you.
job, guys.
Okay, I didn't realize you were gonna do that, so I gotta stamp the drawings.
All right, Skyfall,
We send it tonight.
Sometime
No, I have my
we
stamp
should-
with me.
next application is Skyfall Lee, LLC, 130 Lee Avenue.
This is garbage.
How many do you need stamped?
Two. Make sure you have your pyramid thing stamped on your survey as well. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Benson. I'm with GP Schaefer Architect. We're presenting Skyfall Lee proposal for 130 Lee Avenue. There is one new building
Right here,
on the
right
property
here.
proposed and two renovations.
Here's another one. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Do you have your materials? Because I'd like to walk you through.
Just hold on one
Okay,
second.
sure.
A little housekeeping.
Sure.
Thank you.
Proceed.
I'd like to start with what we're calling the primary dwelling, which is the one of the two existing buildings. It is an existing two-story, white painted, clapboard sided building. Sort of, it's had multiple iterations of renovations over the years. I think the core of it is late 18th century. Oh, sorry, late 19th century. We're trying to clean up the facade, restore some of the historic nature, make it more appropriate for the village and the neighborhood. We are proposing to maintain the painted, rather replace the painted clapboard siding with a similar exposure. This is not the actual paint color that we're proposing. This is just a primed sample to illustrate the clapboard exposure. The paint color that we are proposing, I believe, is in the submission that you have. It's Benjamin Moore white down, a satin finish. That would apply to the clapboard siding. It would apply to the trim. It would apply to the window sashes and doors.
Okay.
And the only differentiating color would be a black forest green, which we're proposing for the shutters. Very traditional,
very nice.
Appropriate facade. Roof material would be cedar shingle. Again, historically appropriate. Traditional detailing on the eaves and the cornices. We're
standing seam copper roof on that?
oh, sorry, yes, standing seam copper on some of the lower pitch roofs.
Got it.
On some of that.
Okay, and the brick is what, Old Virginia?
The brick is called Williamstown, I believe.
Williamstown, okay,
That's
that's
by
great.
Old Carolina.
Not Danish Glen. No. Thank
No.
God.
But we've used them a lot. They have beautiful restorations.
Yeah, they really do. Great.
The eave profiles, this is the existing profile. We are just restoring it to a more classically correct. Traditional.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Very nice, gentlemen.
Thank you. On the, what we're calling the barn for the zoning
Love the
application. We are creating an exterior chimney, which is proud of the building footprint. It's out of this brick, of course. This is vertical flush boards, tongue and groove. That's not the actual widths. They'll be a little bit wider than that for the scale.
It's all vertical grain fur, though?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
very nice.
In a natural finish. The only difference in the trim around the windows and doors would also be in the natural material. But
No
the,
paint.
Well, the paint would be on the sashes and the
Got it.
doors.
Beautiful.
And that is
Nice.
It's absolutely beautiful, and the presentation is just terrific.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I don't know what happened to our dark color.
Very
on the windows,
refreshing.
but Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This, we're not doing much in terms of changing the existing and proposed eave detail.
Shed roof.
It's very simple shed roof.
Got it. Okay.
Similar overhang.
Yep.
The
Very nice.
third structure is a proposed new building, a three-car garage. Similar to the barn in that we're doing the vertical flush boards, but we're proposing to paint this.
I'm sorry, what was the name of your firm again?
GP Schaefer Architect.
And where are you?
We're in New York City.
New York, yeah, very good.
This is, we're proposing to paint this
Mhm.
to match the sort of distinguishing color of the shutters
Okay.
of the main facade too, just so it doesn't feel like a compound of the exact,
Mhm.
mimicking buildings.
Okay.
So the paint would be on the entire exterior of all the components.
roof.
Except the roof, which would be, again, the natural cedar
Okay.
shingle.
And standing seam.
And standing on the cupola, thank you.
Okay.
Similar to the shed eave detail that we have in the barn, so
Mhm.
nothing too fancy there. The windows and doors are, we're proposing custom wood units, traditional weight and chain, double hung windows for the primary dwelling.
These are all Michael Riley's?
Yes.
Insulated glass, 7/8 mutton,
Got
simulated
it.
divided light.
Okay. All 6/6. It's a very nice
It's going to be
presentation.
very beautiful.
Very,
Thank
very
you.
handsome.
I think so. And then the French doors, again, by Riley, custom wood units, painted appropriately.
Okay.
Very well
Zach,
done.
any questions?
I don't have any
We
questions. I
oohed
just
and
want
awed enough, so.
Quick observation that I think these gentlemen have kind of demonstrated a standard that we would appreciate seeing.
I think you should turn that to the
Absolutely.
camera, too.
Absolutely.
In terms of
Absolutely.
detailing, et cetera.
Detailing,
Just flip to the
explanation.
detail of the second page, Jen, I think. And it's much better for the community and for our board to be able to see that.
It's unfortunate that
Your arguments.
you're from out of town and you're teaching.
We're working on it.
Working on it.
A standard to aspire to.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Any public
Thank you.
comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve with pleasure Skyfall Lee LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Shahrzad Kahami,
Okay, we burnt out
35
the
Wine
battery.
Dance.
Hold on.
What are we waiting for?
Waiting
The
for
battery.
Battery.
Very sweet. You're good?
It's all good?
Okay. Shahrzad Kahimi, 35 Wine Dance for construction of driveway gates.
Yes, my name's Chris Langle, property management for Shahrzad Kayami.
File.
Oh, I beg your pardon,
You
guys.
okay?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
At 35
Wine
Wyandanch. 35 Wyandanch Lane.
I'm trying to look
I
for
think
it.
it's in the front one.
Well, it's a little teeny weeny file.
After the last one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No issues.
Stacy?
How high are the gates?
I believe it's been a while since I reviewed the architectural drawings.
Posts are 6 and the gates are 4.
Yes.
Esther?
As long as the spacing is good, I'm fine with it.
Pam?
No issues.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve Shahrzad Kayami, 35 Wyandanch
Good
Lane.
job.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
I'm going to call Hetty Creek Corp. Just the same. Application for Hetty Creek Corp.
Let's take a look at the file.
For
One
driveway
second.
gates.
Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the application for 23 Hetty Creek Court.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Application is Old Town Development LLC, 6 Old Town Line for construction of new two-story house.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Keane. I'm here in the developer of Old Town, which I know you're all well aware of. Here are the affidavits. Pass these out, make it easier.
I think we have them.
Do you have it in the small version? No, it's been changed.
They've been changed.
Okay, put these away.
They have to go that way.
Okay.
Do we have?
What are the changes that you have? between
It's
this?
really, we did some changes to the elevations. We added a gambrel roofs where we just had pitched roofs before, gable ends. We decided, after we got some of the cost numbers in, we decided to dress it up a little bit more because we were spending more than we expected to be on this particular house.
It's unusual.
So do I have a revised set of plans in here?
You should have no, you do not have a revised set for the front elevation. We got that tonight.
Your interpretation of the new revisions.
Yes.
Okay, we need stamp sets on these.
Okay, we will.
Let's walk through the
Let's walk through it, and then we can maybe figure out how to go about it. I'm not going to try to waste a lot of your time, but we meet or exceed our total square footage allowance. We meet or exceed our gross floor area calculations, and we meet all the building heights on the main dwelling.
Wait, you meet or you exceed?
We meet or less than the requirements.
All right.
Thank you very
John,
much.
I have a question for you. This is the first house that you're building in this development.
No, this is the.
Can I finish? Thank
sir.
you. This is the first house that you're building in this development that borders Wickapog, is that correct?
No, we've got one going up already.
You've got one at Lot 7 going up?
Lot 7, directly
Okay,
across the
so
street from this one.
Could we see what Lot 7, what the perspective of Lot 7 and Lot 6 look like when you come back with your plans?
Sure.
So that we see what the two houses that are facing the Wickapog side, how we're going to present.
Sure.
Because that's the most exposure you have on any of your lots, are, I believe, 6 and 7.
Right, and it's only the end of the house that's exposed to
Those are the only
Wickapog.
ones that really are attached to a lot of farmhouses that are between Narrow Lane, where your background, I think some of your family had property down on Wickapog years ago, between that and Old Town. Nevertheless, the point being is that we have a lot of farm-style houses. There's a very, very major difference right there. As a lot of the houses within this development are protected, they've done them beautifully, but these are the first ones that really side by side are right along Wickapog.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Sorry.
I don't understand the request.
The request is very straightforward. In the village of Southampton, this is a gateway into our historic district, more or less a gateway into the village. On the Wickapog, every one of the houses, and I think you've looked at a number of these different houses. The Barron's house, as an example, is right across the street, was restored. Many of the houses are restored right there. This development so far has been beautifully done, John, by your firm and landscaping and so forth, where the houses are mostly turned inward. These are the houses that are exposed, especially number 6, because it's in a bump in the road, out towards Wickapog.
It's not, it's actually, if you look at the site plan,
Okay. I'm looking at the survey
Wickapog is this road right here.
Yeah, I'm looking at this,
Yeah,
correct?
so you're only seeing the end of the house. You're actually only seeing, and we actually, on this particular house, we have a detached garage.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is really a small detached garage, and then the house beyond it, and again, it's the side of the house, you really can't
Okay.
see the front of the house at all. So
Right.
you're seeing the narrowest part of the house from Wickapog.
And is that the same on lot 7?
Same
Just so I
thing,
know, because
basically, yeah. It's if you took this house and flipped it, it's the exact same thing
Okay.
that was approved before.
So,
Setback, John, for Wickapog.
From Wickapog.
to the garage, right? And not to the tennis
is,
court.
is 100,
The house.
100 feet, 100.10.
And is that the garage or the house?
That's the
That's the house.
that's the house.
And what would the garage be from Wickapog?
Do you have that, George, now? Just one moment. It might be 100 feet for the actual garage.
It's obviously not going to be greatly visible
From the
whatsoever.
garage to Wickapog, it looks like 35 feet, 3 inches.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Correct.
Thank
Then
you.
I don't have any issue
So
whatsoever.
there would be
I don't
no
have any
impact
issues.
to.
Yeah,
Wickapog.
zero impact.
No, I mean, we're
Plus
building.
the landscape plan that you're proposing,
Yeah.
I would venture to say, no portions of the garage, and maybe a peak of the house is going to be seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the house that we're building on Lot 7, we have a massive mound, the height of the house
Understood,
up,
but
and
Lot
you can't
7's
even
not
see
before
it.
us right now.
No, I'm just saying, with that one, you can't even see it,
Yeah,
and so we're
no, I
gonna have
think
the
your
same
landscaping is
situation
fine.
here.
I think your garage is sitting back about 32 feet, but you've got a lot of landscaping and buffering, and it's a large lot. How many acres is this?
It's just under 4 acres, 3.87
Okay.
acres to be precise.
What a cabana.
Okay, quite the cabana. So let's,
What a cabana.
so let's talk about the things that, we have 3 applications here, really. We have the house, we have the pool house, and we have the garage. So maybe can we take one at a time, and then we'll go to the cabana next and the garage?
Yes.
Do you have any questions on the house
The
itself?
house is fine.
I don't
The house
have
is
any issues
beautiful.
with the aesthetics of this application whatsoever. I was just concerned with the setback from Wickapog. And now that I see that.
I don't even want to waste your time. The aesthetics of the house are beautiful.
Thank you.
Good.
I think the design is beautiful.
Thank you.
To spend a day in the cabana would be wonderful, but I know it's not realistic.
The only thing I need to bring to your attention is the cabana and the garage exceed the allowable square footage by, I think, 93 square feet for the pool house and 42 square feet for the garage, of which we are going to the ZBA to get approval for that. We are also asking the ZBA for approval for a taller pool house and a taller garage, because with these large lots, what's happening, we designed originally a conforming pool house and garage. It looks funny these are very large houses on very large lots. And what happened was, it looked like we were building a playhouse outside. So we've redesigned it, and we increased it.
Awful when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, just understand that we're approving the plans as submitted today.
Okay.
With the size that's being submitted today. Per your approval through the ZBA or any variance that you receive, if the structure changes, increases,
design, aesthetic, material, anything changes due to that decision, you have to come back before the board to get it reapproved.
They had asked that we first get exactly what you're saying. We get your approval so they know aesthetically it's okay, and then they'll make the decision on the other things.
Okay. Well, the challenge is that you still have a set of plans to give us.
Two
Yes.
sets.
Two sets. I'm willing to do a contingent on those two sets.
Okay.
Approval if the board agrees, and I'll stamp these for now, and we'll stamp the revised two sets when you receive them in the building department. But if the approval tonight, if we elect to do so, will be contingent upon that
Not a
set.
problem.
Council, do you have any issue with that?
And
Board
not-
members, do you have an issue with that?
I know, John, you have a good reputation.
The pool house and the garage you already have, it's just the house.
It's just,
Right, okay.
right, but you will match up to what you've submitted tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Motion to approve contingent on the submission of the revised plans.
I make a motion to approve Old Town Development LLC, subject to...
Lot 6.
Lot 6, thank you. Subject to getting completed, 2 sets of completed plans, and then subject to the ZBA approving on the variances.
Great.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good
For the
night.
last ones, you can go home.
Thank you.
The last one's a charm.
I just a question, I saw on the agenda that you're going to discuss the changing of the nights to Monday night?
That won't happen as of yet. We are going to discuss it right now. They're still just open for negotiations. What will happen is we'll discuss whether Monday night will be a reasonable option or another night on an alternative night. However, the public will be properly noticed and notified prior to the next meeting or any changes within the meetings.
Great, thanks very much.
Maybe
Thank
change
you.
to Tuesday as well.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Left on the agenda, April 23rd minutes. Antoinette, were we all here?
No, we can't vote on that one, but
Okay.
we can vote on May 14th.
All board members had the opportunity to review.
Yes.
Yes.
Question, comments, concerns? Any changes, errors, or omissions?
Not at this time.
Motion to approve the minutes from May 14th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for May 14, 2014.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And also on the agenda is the discussion about moving a meeting until Monday nights. I think there were some concerns for some members that Monday night may not be appropriate, and possibly an alternative is Tuesday nights. Open for discussion and dialogue. Any
Monday
members?
nights are just brutal days for me, and I have 2 Monday nights already occupied with the planning board.
Okay, Tuesday night?
Tuesday night's okay.
Tuesday nights.
Tuesday's fine with me, as we discussed earlier.
Okay. We don't have a complete board?
We have a quorum.
Yes.
Trustees, you got the trustees on the 3rd Tuesday. I think this is a little bit deja vu. I think we had this discussion about Tuesdays.
Yes, we did.
That's why we fell back to Wednesday.
Well, we were Monday. We were originally Monday nights.
I don't have any issue with
That
it
was
being
very,
Monday.
very many years ago, right?
3 or 4 years ago? 3 years ago.
But I'd say we had about a year ago or so, like, discussion on an alternate night, and I remember the Tuesday and the conflict.
Why don't we discuss it with a full board when we have an
think that's a good
opportunity?
idea.
Okay.
Well, motion to close this evening's meeting.
I make a motion to close the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for
Second.
May 28, 2014.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.